No, we are now. We are.
Okay. Hello,
Wow.
everyone.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome everyone to this stream. Sorry it's been so long. I mean, I've been under a lot of stress because I've been looking for a job at this point and I just haven't had the time or energy to do a stream.
And now that you got a new job, you're also working. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but anyway, this is not the kind of video I intend to do as my first video of 2024 for Fantifa, but I feel like to fill in the void that's been left for months, and sorry for those who've been eagerly waiting for another stream. We decided to stick to something simple that we could talk about, so a minimal amount of research.
We had something also planned, which was also about Star Wars, but it was quite in depth, and there was a lot of issues to talk about. So this is just a little bit more simple, and we can kind of have a little bit more of a general discussion about entertainment today after. So,
Well, for those of you who want to know what the video was originally going to be, it was actually going to be about Jessie Jenner's 5-hour video about Star Wars. It wasn't us attacking her video or maybe critiquing certain parts of it.
I thought overall it's a very good video, and I would
Yes.
recommend people watch it. But it is 5 hours, so.
So for me, in order to properly do a video on that subject as a response, we have to watch it twice, and I do not fucking have 5 hours to do it right now.
I've watched it once, and I took notes, but there's still some things where I could probably. So we will be doing that eventually, but right now we're just doing sort of a intro year kind of thing.
Well, for those of you who are watching this stream after it's live, this isn't to attack her. This is just to add to the conversation and maybe to respond and maybe critique certain positions and their because there's other people that were involved in the making of that documentary as well. It's not just to like agree with her and to suck her off or just criticize her. It's also just to add to the conversation because I feel like that video did something that I wanted to do for years and say for years, but I don't think I could do it as well as she could. Though there's some areas I have issues with. It was a pretty solid video, and I think all Star Wars fans should watch because I just feel like sometimes to do a video like that, you need an outsider's perspective. Not saying she's not a fan, but she's a Trekkie more than a Star Wars fan. And I think that's necessary to have a conversation about Star Wars. And to segue this in, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Well, not lately, but a lot. The youth are not really into Star Wars, and I just kind of want to talk to those who are in the audience, who are younger people, and I'm talking about people younger than me. When I mean by young people, I'm referring to people who are basically 25 years or under. Because what's interesting is, unlike previous generations, you don't see a huge surge of Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
Like, see all the content creators for Star Wars? They're all people who are in their 30s or 40s. They're not people who are young, majority of them. When you compare
what? Sorry, go ahead.
You
I was just going to say, we both have kind of unique perspectives because I'm 24, so I'm right in that age bracket. But people younger than me, I don't see into Star Wars. And there was things growing up that I think got me into Star Wars that aren't as much around today. Or there's things that I don't like that have become a part of Star Wars that might turn some people off. So,
well, it just feels like if you do a Star Wars video that isn't trashing the new stuff, your videos are gonna get fucking nothing in terms of views.
Like some people have like dedicated lore channels and they go to in depth on stuff, and that's good and all, but like a lot of people who are surface level Star Wars fans might not appreciate it. They might, but yeah.
I just don't think Star Wars fans are as dedicated to their fandom like a lot of others are, and I know that's gonna sound blasphemous saying that. Like if you go to Dragon Ball fan channels, and I know some fan channels, some people may be familiar with some of them if they follow Dragon Ball YouTube, such as Saiyan Scholar, Quaman. I cannot name all of them. Moscow X.
Moscow, yeah.
I'm just going by people that have done lore
Yeah,
channels.
yeah. I know his channel, yeah.
I forgot there's another guy, I think Geekdom 101, even though he's kind of a reactionary, but he is one of the better Dragon Ball YouTubers out there when it comes to Dragon Ball lore. Like his Dragon Ball in depth is some of the best lore videos on Dragon Ball. I'm just saying that on average, when you see anime fans of various fandoms, when they talk about lore, they're far more dedicated than Star Wars fans these days, and it's really weird. I thought it would be the reverse. Because Dragon Ball fans have been consistent when it comes to their dedication, whether before Dragon Ball Super and after. And Star Wars YouTube, I feel like was at its peak before The Force Awakens and after as well. I think I'm talking about that era from 2009 to 2017. I feel like was Star Wars at its peak in terms of YouTube content. In terms of quality and view count, but you saw a subtle decline in time.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it has to do with these aging content creators. I'm not criticizing them because some of them are around the same age as I am, but the facts are the facts. You cannot maintain a fandom with like older people for indefinitely.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem too, or not problem, but just the case is that Star Wars is a very old like story and property, like 1976 if you want to go back that far. Like it is an old series. You look at the stuff that's popular now, like you were talking about Dragon Ball, say One Piece, stuff like that.
Yeah, but
anime in general, like 1999. Well, Dragon Ball is like the late 80s, but a lot of the very popular anime stuff is like the late 90s. So I think for people to like get attached to the series, they want to get attached when they're young, and I kind of did. Luckily, it was in that prequel era when I was very much into Star Wars, and then like the late 2000s to before Force Awakens when I'd watched lore channels like Stupendous Wave or Eckhart's Ladder. I don't really watch that much anymore, but I think part of it is like just the Star Wars burnout, like just so like much content and not all of it being like great. And when I say content, I mean what Disney has pointed out. And I'm not saying everything Disney is bad, but yeah.
I'm more focused on the YouTube. The YouTube content is fucking shit. Like you have Splendendous Wave is doing a bunch of it's like, why are you doing this? Like he's did complete clickbait where it's canon or legends about something, and then he talks about fucking nothing throughout most of the fucking video. Like if you look at Splendendous Wave's videos prior to the fucking when the prequels trilogy was going, it was pretty good content. But when you look at his videos now, they're awful. By comparison.
Yeah, I remember enjoying a lot of that stuff, but now it's just like, I don't really watch those channels anymore.
One of the few good Star Wars YouTubers that exist are those who barely make stuff like Evernova and Jen Sarai, even though it's versus videos. When they produce Star Wars videos, I'm excited because I know I'm gonna have a good time watching them. Even if it's about some characters I don't know anything about, just learning about watching the versus fights and just learning about their abilities. It's also additional lore I learn about about the characters. Like it's amazing content, and they're like a dying breed. There's very few of those kind of people left.
So, what, in your opinion, then, why is that? Do you think?
Why do I think what?
That Star Wars is like dying on YouTube. You mentioned the aging fan base, but what else do you think?
I personally think if there's other factors to take into consideration, because I feel like Star Wars came out at a time where there was nothing else to compete against Star Wars. Like when Star Wars came out, this is before our time. I'm going by the original trilogy.
Yeah,
there was nothing to compare to Star Wars. Like there was nothing to compare to it. Star Wars was the one series of that you couldn't compare it to anything. There was nothing. There's no alternatives to it. Star Trek. I'm just not saying this to downplay Star Trek. let's be honest, when you look at Star Trek and you look at Star Wars, Star Trek looked cheap by comparison.
Yeah, well, if one of the things is the TV show, but even those movies that came up before Next Generation and after the original series, those movies, like, they're funny, but they are a little bit cheap. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'm going by the movies only when it comes to Star Wars. Star Trek does have production quality that does compare to Star Wars, but it's so inconsistent. Like when it
Yeah.
comes to production, like we compare like Star Trek, the motion picture blows away any of the original trilogy, and when it comes to production values and acting quality,
Acting quality, definitely. Yeah.
Wrath of Khan as well. But then again,
I still love that movie. I still think that one holds up quite well.
But then when you go to the other films, it's just really inconsistent. That's why just Star Wars, I just feel like the original trilogy has held up better than the Star Trek films overall.
Mhm.
And I'm going by the original Star Trek movies, not the Next Generation movies. I'm going by the original Star Trek movies that have to do with the original crew.
Mhm.
And I just feel like Star Wars there wasn't much competition. There was for Star Trek, maybe one of its biggest competitors, but Star Trek catered to a different audience than Star Wars that did.
Mhm.
And then, of course, Star Trek had its own thing back in the 80s. It still does today, but it wasn't like it became in the late 90s. I'm going by the expanded universe for Star Trek, which fans call the literary verse. Like even Star Wars didn't really have that back then. It was in the 1990s. I feel like everything changed. I feel like Star Wars was able to stay popular after the original trilogy. I'm just going to say this. I think the EU kept Star Wars going when there was no movies being made.
Oh,
Without
definitely.
the EU,
Yeah.
Star Wars, I'm not saying it wouldn't not been popular, would not have an impact on pop culture, but I feel like long term, Star Wars fans would have gradually just moved on. And a lot of them did until the Thrawn trilogy came out. Those who truly
Mhm.
cared about more Star Wars, they had it. And I feel like one of the things, fast forward to today, I think the reason why so many Star Wars fans just don't really care about it anymore, there's various things that people have when they look at Star Wars. We talk to Star Wars fans, so many of them have a different outlook on Star Wars. They're never going to look at it the same way. And some may consider this a good thing. I don't really consider that a good thing because unlike Star Trek, which has multiple series, of TV shows that
Mhm.
came out, Star Wars only had 6 films and a handful of movies
Mhm.
by comparison. And I feel like people just cannot agree what Star Wars is. People could agree what Star Trek is, but not Star Wars. And I feel like if you look at the Star Trek fan, there's just far more engagement and far more excitement when you see your average Star Trek fans, because they're Star Trek fans of multiple generations. The original series, the Next Generation, the current series that's currently out, which is Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Picard. And I just feel like because Star Trek fans have been, since Star Trek has been never really left the culture like Star Wars did outside I'm talking about on screen, not the books.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
Star Trek has been able to maintain its fan base a lot longer. Star Wars, I just feel
Been
like
consistent in that way. Yeah.
it's been able to get new generation of fans. Because if you look at Star Wars, let's be honest here. I think young people, when they see Star Wars, they just see it as something that old people are into.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, but yeah, that's true.
Not to mention, unlike in the 90s which is when when I became a fan, and the mid 2000s, there wasn't that many alternatives. Like
Mhm.
Marvel was not a thing yet. Yeah, there was some Marvel movies, but they were bad.
Blade movies, anyone? Yeah.
The Blade movies, I don't know. I think the first one's
The
good,
first one's alright. The second one's funny. The third one's
but I was talking
bad,
about the ones
but
that came before that one,
oh, like
like
the really old Marvel movies.
like Punisher and Captain America.
Oh god, yeah.
I'm just saying you did have some, and the
Yeah.
unmade Fantastic Four. That
But it was,
somehow was
yeah.
better than the Fox movies, despite it looking worse.
But yeah, at the time, Star Wars was kind of that unique multimedia franchise. You had movies, you had books, you had games. Again, Star Trek had that too, but I think Star Wars was a little bit more well known, not necessarily well known, but appealed to a more wide audience. Like if you were into Star Trek, you're really into Star Trek. If
Well,
you're into Star Wars, you might like Star Wars, but and I
Star
think
Wars
like
did have a competition though when it came to the books. Star Trek was its competitor
mhm.
because okay, I'm familiar with Star Trek books, so I could tell you this. Star Trek published more books than Star Wars did during that time.
Huh.
Like they did it, which is why a lot of the Star Trek books kind of varied in quality
Mm.
because I think they had two books came out a month. They were kind of
Oh
like
wow.
comic issues.
Huh. It's almost like a serialized kind of format. Huh.
Yeah, well, the thing though that the reason why Star Wars did overtake Star Trek in the novels department is Star Wars had something Star Trek didn't have until the late 90s and early 2000s, and that was continuity between works.
Hmm.
Because it authors weren't allowed to really connect their stories with other people's stories unless it was someone else's story. Like the author doing a story and they're in the same, if they're the same author, they couldn't really connect like their story to someone else's story. It was an episodic format, like a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
Like you do have some good books in that era of Star Trek. It's just a lot of them were varied in quality, and you did have special event books, which were considered the highlight, like hardcovers. Like
Mm.
Star Trek, usually when there was a book that basically was the highlight of that year or the highlight of that quarter, it was a hardcover. It was done by an established author, actually.
Hmm.
Star Wars was a different beast altogether, and I think Star Wars inspired other franchises to do the same thing it did. Like if Star Wars, the EU did not exist in the 90s, you would never have the Halo EU. You would never have
I
the
was just gonna say Halo. Yeah.
You would never have the
Yeah.
Star Trek like literary verse post Nemesis, which had its own interconnected continuity, which rivaled Star Wars. Of course, this didn't just happen post Nemesis. This Star Trek had a program in the early 2000s, which I'm currently reading those novels now, which a Star Trek series when they relaunched the novel line, they basically did post series stories. Like, yeah, think of them as the season 8 or 9 of a respective Star Trek series. Like Deep Space Nine had its own relaunch, which continued the adventures of the crew post series. Same thing with Voyager. The Next Generation had its own post series continuity, though that did not happen until 2005. But still, Star Trek did copy Star Wars, but was inspired by it because the story started to interconnect.
Yeah. Because earlier on in the year, you had some books connected. Like you had, like everyone knows the Thrawn trilogy, but even before that, you had those Han Solo storybooks, which were, but they connected to each other, but not the wider universe. And then later on, you had stuff like X-Wing and those kind of series. But you also get these like funny one-offs, which for me, for a long time, that was my favorite part of the Star Wars EU was the Tales of books. I mean, they're not the highest quality, but I think they're really cool, just exploring characters that weren't often explored that you already were vaguely familiar with. But for a lot of time, it was those kind of one-off things. But eventually, it became like this expanded universe, so everything was somewhat connected. And that, I guess, that did. I wasn't around during the heyday of that, being that the early to late '90s, but the kind of whole connected universe at the time, even into the 2000s when I was getting into it, it felt unique. And now you have stuff like Marvel, which does the same thing. I would argue probably worse, but also better in some ways. But yeah, it was unique.
Well,
In that
Star Wars
way.
was not the first thing that had first series to have an interconnected universe. But let's be honest, I don't really want to compare Star Wars to Marvel. I'm going by when I'm talking about the comics here because
Yeah.
Marvel, a lot of course, that's a can of worms that I could discuss at a different time. But a lot of those characters, like the authors and the artists got fucked over by Marvel. But in my opinion, I don't think most of these characters should any of them should belong to Marvel. In my opinion, they should belong to the original owners and the family their family, because I think it's bullshit. Like, how many of those artists got fucked over by them?
Yeah, and then people don't remember like those people. They just remember Kirby or Lee. Like, they don't remember the people who actually created these characters. Even some that were pretty well known, right? People just bunched and that's also a thing in Star Wars too. As Jesse Gender Video mentioned, like the idea that everything was George Lucas's creation, which I will argue it is his story, so he could have final say over it. But so much of what made Star Wars what we know now is not from him; it's from other creators who are adding on to his storytelling in a good way, in the world he created.
I think George Lucas gets way too much credit, and I know that's blasphemy. Oh my God, George Zenovia, you're a hater of George Lucas. No, I just think that George Lucas gets way too much credit. Like, I don't think we should judge the quality of the story because of the original creator. I'm just going to be real. The best Star Wars stories were not made by George Lucas. Fight me.
I'll fight you right here, man. No. But no, so some of the best ones, like I will agree, some of the best ones were not made by him. And you wouldn't have the expansive love for the whole series if it was just those original 3 movies, right? So,
well, I think speaking of which, I think the reason why a lot of young people just don't vibe with Star Wars, I think, is we've been living a decade in this nostalgia pandering.
Yeah. Big time. Ever since Force Awakens came out, and a little bit before that, it's just original trilogy, and now even prequel trilogy nostalgia.
Well,
They're
I don't
scared to go ahead.
I don't mind prequel trilogy nostalgia. I don't. It's just the problem is they're so scared of doing Star Wars that isn't part of anything George Lucas created.
Yeah, or outside the whole Skywalker story. I mean, there's an argument that the Skywalker story is the central story or whatever, but I think there's much more you can do.
I personally think, if this is a hot take, I don't think Star Wars should continue past the Skywalkers.
I think you can have side stories, but I don't think main entries.
No, I think Star Wars, the Skywalkers are the main storyline, and if Star Wars has nothing to do with them anymore, they should stop. They should not do any more Star Wars in general. And by the way, I feel the same way about the EU. The EU should not have any new stories past the Skywalkers. They're the main. It's the main storyline.
I'm going to play devil's advocate and disagree, but not because I think that they should just make more to make more. I think if they made more things that were interesting and doing something unique, because at the end of the day, I think there's only so much you can do with the whole family lineage story. And it's good in Star Wars in that sense, but it's also played out in so many other stories that I think something else would be a little bit more interesting. But
I think it would be more interesting. It would be more interesting if we just told a new story and a new franchise altogether.
Yeah.
In my honest opinion, I feel like the Skywalker saga is Star Wars. And you remove them from Star Wars, it's not Star Wars anymore. Yeah, you can have stories that take place before they're born. That's fine. But my issue is, what kind of stories are going to tell with? I know that I'm going on a tangent here, but I'll probably go on a tangent more when I talk about Rise of Shitwalker. Eventually, when I feel like killing my brain cells watching that shit. But what story can you tell of Rey?
Yeah. See, I'm not advocating for that, but you're right. Yeah.
What story? In fact, is this really moving past the Skywalkers?
I would say it's not. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't believe Star Wars should continue in general, but if we're going to do a Star Wars story after Rise of Skywalker, we should go centuries after the fact. No characters related to Skywalkers. That includes people that have interacted with them.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like Star Wars in general is that I just don't. Young people in general, of course, this could dive into a different topic altogether, but it's the truth. Young people have nothing to be nostalgic about. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I just feel like we kind of live in an age. This just goes for all entertainment, where I don't think human society is allowed to grow past like the past generation. Stories are not allowed to have their heyday.
Yeah. It definitely feels like that with everything being rehashed or just continued on and on and on. Not a lot of original comes up, and if something original does come up, it doesn't get the recognition it often deserves.
Yeah, it's just like we live in an age where things are not allowed to just end or series is allowed to thrive under the sun and be done. It's like the very fact, the concept that we could have a Back to the Future reboot in the future. That fucking no.
God. Oh God. Oh.
Okay, I think though. Okay, I love Back to the Future. I don't want to
Me
fucking
too.
see another movie.
Exactly.
It's like, whatever happened to stories? I think that's another reason why I'm so adamant against continuing Star Wars past the Skywalkers, because what is the point?
Yeah. How much further can you go with just that concept? Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a new Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, not only Ghostbusters 2016, but also there was like a 2022 one or something. Like,
Okay,
Jesus Christ, people, slow down.
Okay, Ghostbusters Afterlife is supposed to be a sequel to Ghostbusters 2. And Frozen Empire, I think, is basically Ghostbusters 4.
What the fuck is that? Frozen Empire?
I think that's what it's called. I think. I don't even know.
Oh God.
I say another thing that needs to stop is legacy sequels.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons. Sorry, go ahead.
You were about to. I've interrupted you. You finish.
One of the reasons I've tried to just explore other kinds of just movies and entertainment in general is because these kinds of like continuing franchises, it just gets so dull after a while. So I don't know. I would encourage people to, because there are so many other things out there. If you want to find something, and I guarantee you there was something you'd be interested in. It's just a matter of finding it, right?
Well, the good thing about Star Trek is every series has a beginning, middle, and end. So any series could be an ending point if you don't want to watch any more anything related to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's another reason why I just feel like why Star Wars doesn't vibe with young people in general. It's like look what we have to choose from now for entertainment. Like the age of streaming, there's literally no reason to. Why would any person really want to watch Mandalorian?
Unless they already know about Star Wars and are nostalgic for it, which, like you said, young people have no reason to be. Then why what's unique about it? Why would they want to be interested in that? Yeah.
You want a space opera? You have Gundam. No joke. You have Gundam if you want a space opera. And unlike Star Wars, most Gundam series are self-contained. You don't have to watch all the series to understand what's going on in the current one that you're watching.
Yeah, and that's another thing too about some of those new Star Wars shows. I haven't seen all of them, but like even shows that are different, like Boba Fett and Mandalorian or whatever, they connect to the point where you need to see one to see the other, and nothing can really stand on its own anymore. I think that might have been a symptom of the whole Marvelification, if you want to call it that, of like pop culture. But at the same time, Star Wars was doing that earlier on too, so it's not a new thing. But
yeah, but
it's just annoying for people who want to get into stuff like, yeah.
Yeah, but in the EU, as long as you could start at any point in the EU, as long as you don't start in the middle of the series.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, you can start. Yeah, I will say this: you could start in Fate of the Jedi. It's not despite it being the last arc in the EU in the novels. You could read that.
And make
without
sense
reading
of it as a
everything else.
self-contained story. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, you may not get certain things, but the novel fills in information for those who. It's like there's no way the authors who wrote those novels did not know that not everyone who's going to read these books are going to be people who've read the previous books. It's even like that with the new novels too. It like there isn't that many self-contained stories in the new books either.
Mm.
Like I was literally mocked and basically kicked out of a group because I said the High Republic is the worst thing in Star Wars because it's a cash grab. But you have to read everything in order to understand what's going on.
Aren't there like comics too and stuff? Like,
Yes, you can't just
yeah.
stick to one of the mediums and get the whole story. You have to read everything.
Yeah.
And the comics are awful.
You were telling me about that, I think. Yeah.
Okay, I'm making it no secret. I'm just for those of you who haven't heard me rant about the High Republic, but you probably have. I don't care if it's a fucking dead horse. I'll do it anyway because I don't like Marvel's artists in modern Marvel comics. I think a lot of the artists they have are fucking shit. I hate the art style for many of the new Marvel comics.
I haven't picked up a Marvel comic since like 2015, but like anything past like the late 90s, it just the art style is not appealing to me. That's just me personally, but
Yeah, speaking
and
of
again,
art,
I'm not. Go ahead.
I think that's another thing about Marvel and Star Wars and DC too. Why they're losing badly to manga.
Mm.
Like like let's be honest here. Most people when they read who are comic readers, what's gonna catch them first is the art.
Mm-hmm.
When they see it, when they look at a Marvel comic, it's like, this sucks. This looks terrible. This is so bland. And then they look at them at a random manga in their local Barnes and Noble, whatever equivalent they have in any other country.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, this art looks pretty good. I actually like to give this a shot.
Mm-hmm. And I know that like manga art is often like uh, characterized as being, oh, it has all these features that are all the same, like, oh, the big eyes, spiky hair, blah blah. But the amount of variation you will find in manga or even anime art styles compared to what you will find in Western comics these days, even in the golden era, whatever, but it's astounding. Like there's so much just more variety of different styles. And when you
Well,
look at
I'll just use an example. Like if you look at Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Fist of the North Star, Hunter x Hunter, Yu Hakusho, Sailor Moon, Shaman King. Yeah, I'm mentioning an underrated classic there. Rosario plus Vampire, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer. By the way, I haven't read all of these, the ones I mentioned. I'm just mentioning them on the top of my head. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Oh yeah, Akira. Those of you who are familiar with the movie, yeah, there's a manga of Akira. Alita, Battle Angel, Trigun, Hellsing, Berserk,
Yu-Gi-Oh, Death Note. Yeah.
Death Note, Yuna of the Dawn. I'm just listing this various other stuff. It's like, yeah, I've listed a lot. If you look at all those manga, by the way, I own a good chunk of them. Though not all of them. For some of them, I don't own the entire volumes for the collection for all of them. But when you look at every art style for each of these comics, they don't look the same. They look complete. There's different variations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you may see some inspiration, some similarity, superficial with One Piece and Dragon Ball, or Naruto and Rurouni Kenshin.
But at the same time, they're at least all instantly recognizable as, oh, that's Toriyama style, or though that's like.
Well, also as well, because if you look at how the art style for these mangas change over time, like Naruto, if you look at chapter 1, then look at chapter 700, the art has evolved. And unlike Marvel Comics, and DC, it's one artist drawing all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the Death Note manga is way better than the anime, especially the ending. I despise the ending of the anime of Death Note.
Have you
Yeah.
seen like sorry, have
What?
you seen like the alternate ending that they didn't release?
For
The
what?
one for Death Note.
Are you sure
Where
that's not a bad made ending?
I don't think so. Is it the one where spoilers? Well, this isn't spoilers. This doesn't happen. But Light himself, because he says he can't go to heaven or hell, he becomes a Shinigami and he's stuck in the fucking spirit world or whatever.
I don't know if that's a real ending. I've heard even if it was a deleted ending, I'm pretty sure the author deleted it for a reason because he wanted to leave Light's end definitive.
Well, he still dies, but yeah.
I mean,
Anyways,
the reason why I prefer the Death Note ending in the manga because I feel like the anime completely misses the point of what the series is about. Because we don't see Light break down emotionally and mentally when everything falls apart around him.
you almost do, but it's not touched upon. And then he kind of just goes and runs away and like dies on like a stairwell or somewhere. Like he doesn't die right in front of all the people. So yeah.
Well, it's a better ending because Light had it coming. Of course, how I view Death Note is the first half of Death Note is the rise of Kira, and the second half is the fall of Kira.
I will say though, I do think the first half is just a much better story.
It is better, but I feel like the second half was needed because
Yeah.
there's no way the reader did not have that question in their mind. What will the world look like if Light wins? We see that in the second half of the story. Like the world basically becomes a totalitarian state. I'm just gonna say this; it's not a hot take. Light was a fascist,
and there's like cults everywhere worshiping him. Yeah. That's the thing. I just think
true.
they made Misa Amane like really like that was such a terrible character writing for her. And just I hate Nier and his stupid brother or whatever. I can't stand them as replacements for L.
Can we all agree that the Netflix Death Note was awful?
I've only seen commercials for it. I'm not gonna watch it.
Okay, imagine Twilight, but Death Note.
I will say I like the idea of Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, but everything else.
He was the best part of that movie.
It takes place in like Seattle or something. Like you couldn't do it in Japan. It had to be like America. It's in Seattle. Yeah.
You know what's really ridiculous though about that movie? I forgot the chick that was. I forgot her what her name was. What's the name of that simp for Light in Death Note?
Oh, the other girl.
Misa
who basically manipulates something like that. The black-haired one. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
She in the live action, it's the reverse. She's more Light than Light is in this version, and she's smarter than him. It's like I thought about this. If they were since they were going off the source material anyway, would have been more interesting for those of you who've seen that awful movie if she was the one that killed, that actually did everything, and it only made it look like Light did it. Light was arrested. He went to prison, and then he died. And then we find out at the end it was her the whole time. That she was the true owner
complete butchery of the story, but I'm sure it already is.
What?
It'll be a complete butchery of the story, but I'm sure it already is.
It's a better twist. She was more like Light Yagami than Light Turner was. Light Turner was just an idiot.
Light Turner, that's what his name is? Oh god. Hi, I'm Light Turner. Nice to meet you, pal. Oh my god.
It was awful. And then what they did to my boy L, what the fuck? Okay, L is not a good person. I know that. I don't care. He was a great character. Wait. You want to know one thing I will not watch though is the Netflix version of fucking The Last Airbender. I fucking won't watch it.
Is that a new thing?
Yes,
Like,
it's coming out. It's like
brand
no,
new?
fuck no.
See, we're just talking about like legacy fucking content. Like, oh, remember this thing you liked? Here's more.
Okay, I do not have nostalgia for The Last Airbender. I watched it years after it ended. And
I watched it.
consider
Oh god, I watched it with my ex, so I have really bad memories of it. And
I think it's a great show. I think it's one of the best cartoons that's ever come out.
For what was airing at that time, especially on like Nicktoons and stuff.
Whatever you do, for anybody who has never watched it yet, don't fucking watch Legend of Korra for the love of God.
Yeah, I've not seen that, but I've heard bad things from you about it.
I enjoyed it when I watched it. When I think about it now, though, then again, that was before I became a communist. If I were to watch it now, I'd probably see it as fascist propaganda. It's like my favorite fucking character is turned into a cop. What the fuck? What Top would never be a cop. She hated them. Sorry, I had to just go on a tangent. But man, well, Jesus, we were talking.
Anyway,
also, you can actually see the influence of anime on the culture. I mean, a lot of cartoons are influenced by anime.
Yeah, adopting the style, at least, especially since like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, when before that, like, it was like underground or cringe or nerdy to like anime. Now, like, a lot of people like it. I feel like it's in TV shows, and it can be a good thing or bad thing because I'm pretty much a fucking anime hater for the most part. Not really, but like, I don't know.
I'm just saying that
this is another thing that people are having their attention turned to other than Star Wars. Like,
yeah, it's like, what's sexier, fucking Star Wars or some cool or a fucking ninja anime that is Naruto or fucking One Piece or fucking Bleach or My Hero Academia. Honestly, I'm just gonna say this: Marvel is obsolete. It really is obsolete. You don't fucking need Marvel. You want superheroes? Watch My Hero Academia.
Yeah, you want any kind of. Honestly, it has like shows for everybody, every kind of diverse interest. Like, I don't know, some of it's trash, but
you want your space opera? Watch Gundam. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that Star Wars is obsolete, but I will say this is a hot take. Star Wars is obsolete. You don't need Star Wars anymore because there's a lot of alternatives there are more than one. There is more than one space opera. They're not all good, mind you.
It's always something you can go back to. I'll say that, but I do think Star Wars should end.
Star Wars is not influencing anything anymore. And yeah, and you know what? That's a good segue. Star Wars cannot get out of this nostalgia pandering. I'm not against classic games being re-released. Because again, there's a lot of games that are stuck on dead consoles.
Only way to play them is to pirate them.
And like I would love nothing more than to have the Rogue Squadron trilogy be on modern platforms.
Oh, that would be cool.
Other than Knights of the Old Republic, my favorite Star Wars games is actually the Rogue Squadron trilogy, and I would like to see those re-released.
I had those on GameCube. I was so bad at them though. I was like 5, so I was just trash at it. Oh man, flying the speeders around and especially the Hoth and
imagine for like Rebel Strike, them adding online multiplayer. It's like there's a lot of potential they could do. It's like,
yeah.
But again, I guess they'll do it eventually. They can't release all of them at once because they'll have nothing left to sell. But even nostalgia, eventually they're going to run out of stuff to sell. Because don't get me wrong, I don't mind the EU getting reprinted and new editions, and because we get new audiobooks as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not doing it because they care about the EU. They're doing it because of the nostalgia. Because nostalgia sells. We live in a nostalgic culture, and we have been living in a nostalgic culture since. I'd argue that this nostalgic culture started in the late 2000s, but it just it got more apparent during the 2010s.
And you can see it in everything too, like, oh, the retro gaming thing. Oh, like old movies, old music. And there's not there's anything wrong with that, but when companies are this is capitalism again, like when companies don't have anything new to create, they know it's profitable to go back to something that is at least somewhat successful and that they know people are already craving more for, then they'll do it. It's not about creating more stories, it's not about trying something new. It's just about making money. But again, it's like beating a dead horse. Like, what else can you say about it?
Well, Star Wars just isn't trying to even make anything new because I don't think it's possible in this. And I'm just going to say that I know some people who enjoy the new stuff may consider what I'm saying blasphemy.
Mm.
But I just don't. I cannot bring myself to enjoy. And I think this is another reason this is what turns young people off. Maybe these young people were into Star Wars at one point, but the sequel trilogy came out. And
yeah, that's pretty much like me, honestly. Yeah.
All roads lead to the sequels. I used to know someone that tried to get someone into the EU, but they couldn't get into it because they couldn't get because how bad the sequels were that they wanted nothing to do with anything Star Wars. And let's be honest,
really fucking
people are not
sucks,
readers either. We can recommend an alternative, but they won't fucking read it.
Yeah.
And then we have these fanatics who defend, who basically cannot, which I think is another thing that turns these people off as well. It's like when you're constantly seeing a bunch of people acting like a bunch of children, defending something that isn't really that good, or being overly defensive, or just attack. Because let's be honest, Star Wars fans attack everyone.
Yeah, and I was gonna say we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the shitty fan base. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fucking bad. It's like the Star Wars fan base is so bad, it makes the Sonic fan base blush. And that fan base, oh god, the less I talk about the Sonic fan base, the better. I mean,
even for me, seeing the just how shitty the community was, especially at least when well, there was some when Force Awakens come out, but after Last Jedi came out, Pete was just like, I don't know, like it's just such a shitty like group of people. It seems like sometimes.
yeah, they are shitty, and not to mention like Star Wars fans. It doesn't matter who they are. They attack people who enjoy Star Wars in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Like I was dogpiled on because I said, "Who fucking cares about canon? Can we discuss stories, please?" And how they work and what doesn't make them work. Can we just talk about stories instead of? That's another thing. This obsession with canon is another thing that I think another thing that turned. I'm thinking for myself, not for young people. This turns me off. And I think when you see when young people to see all this shit, they just want to fucking enjoy Star Wars. They don't want to hear all this crap. But it's everywhere. It's sticky. It's disgusting. It smells bad. You can't fucking escape it.
Yeah.
Even the most casual Star Wars fan, you can't even escape this nonsense when it comes to these conversations. You can't just simply sit back and watch Star Wars. Oh, but not everyone is active online. Well, I hate to break, but we live in an interconnected world, and I think a lot of people who would watch something on that would interact with people because naturally they want to talk about something, or it's in the real world as well. I speak from experience on this one. Like Star Wars is another thing I think it turns off young people too. And I'm speaking for myself here, but I don't know if young people can relate to this. It's not fun talking about Star Wars with most people because the fan base takes themselves so fucking seriously.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. It's like, and not to mention just how the fans will defend everything. Don't give me, it's like, no matter how bad it fucking is, they'll defend it like they're defending their mom's honor.
Oh, For me, it was like there's like two kinds of like fucking terrible Star Wars fans. There's the kind that is like accept like you have to accept everything, only canon matters, blah blah blah, and then there are these like like EU purists and like other like people who can't just look at the story objectively. It has to be like, oh, everything Disney made is crap, and I'll be like, yeah, it is, but what is it about this that you actually like? And I'm like, well, it has blah 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 blah. Like it's not like just about the story anymore. Like you said, it's about, oh, this is what I like, so I'm right, or this is what I like, so I'm right.
Not to mention the biggest hypocrisy. I'll just say this for the EU fans, and I'm not okay. This is gonna sound like a hot take here, but I don't agree. But their disdain for fan fiction is so hypocritical because it's like, hold on, hold on. Isn't Legends now essentially a fanfic?
I guess so. That seems really sad to say, but yeah.
No, I'm asking a rhetorical question. I don't agree that it's a fanfic, but it is on the same level as a fanfic.
Well, I mean, you ever read Crystal Star? That's basically a fanfic.
I will read that masterpiece eventually. And by the way, people,
God.
I'm being sarcastic when I say that. I don't actually mean it's a masterpiece.
But yeah, no, you're right. Like,
okay, I'm not saying this because it's bad. I don't think. I'm just saying that rhetorically. It's a fanfic. I'm sorry. At this point, it's a fanfic. Not downgrading the quality of these stories. I think people will associate fan fiction with shit, and that's not true. There's good fan fiction out there that exists. Speaking of someone that's consumed fan fiction, not Star Wars, mind you, but I'm just saying I've consumed fan fiction. I can tell you that I don't agree with the very notion. I think and we even suggest that, you know what, I think continuing it through fan fiction is the only viable option. They lose their fucking shit.
I mean, that sounds a lot better than just having nothing or going along with making more garbage that we already know all roads lead to the sequels. So,
but
if people want to create their own stories, they should be allowed. Like,
but we need the approval of Lucasfilm. It's like, fuck Lucasfilm. They don't give a fuck about.
Lucasfilm doesn't even give a fuck about Star Wars in general anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
fuck you. Fuck Lucasfilm. Yeah, it's like, seriously. But then again, I don't think the EU is a fanfic. But I'm just saying, I asked a rhetorical question because fan fiction have the same weight in canonicity as the EU at this point, regardless what fan fiction it is. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. And if people don't like me saying that the EU is essentially on the level of fanfic when it comes to canonicity, well, that's your problem.
I mean, the only difference is that it's published now. Yeah.
It's not a fan fiction. No, it isn't. But some of the best stories is told from just because it loses the official label of canon, that it loses fucking what makes it valuable. Because I'll tell you this, a lot of the canon stories are not fucking worth fucking the toilet paper. I mean, sorry, the paper they're printed on. Like, I'm very cautious what writers I read. Like, when I see a writer that I know has written a bad novel, I avoid it like the fucking plague. I do know this year or later there's a novel that's a Mace Windu novel that's being written by a legacy author in the EU, not a one that's done an amazing book, mind you. I don't think Sephir's Deceptions are that good of a book, but I'm open to read another Mace Windu story because he only has one novel in the EU, so I'll do that.
Shatterpoint is so good, though.
Shatterpoint is fucking amazing. It may show that Mace Windu is basically a chauvinist and imperialist, but it's an amazing.
That's
story.
what makes it interesting, though. I think, like, The Jedi and the Republic are just one side of this inter-imperialist war, and the
You know
people
what's
on the planets are the
ridiculous?
ones that are suffering.
How
Yeah.
stupid. It's like, oh my god, George Lucas intended the Jedi to be the paragons of good. It's like, no, what the fuck?
No. No.
The EU goes against what George Lucas said about the Jedi. It's like, if anything, the EU makes the Jedi more interesting.
Yeah.
Fuck the Jedi being the paragon of good. I think it's like, okay, I'm
Especially
gonna.
especially in like prequel and old Republic stuff. When you're
I'm just
talking
gonna.
about the Jedi as they were known, you go ahead.
Is it me or a lot of these fans that they ideologically tend to be fucking liberals?
Yeah.
It's like
And
the
then
Jedi are hypocrites.
yeah.
Wait, what the fuck? I wouldn't pay $100 for any fucking store, any fucking figure.
New Republic E-Wing.
Fuck that.
Don't even know what that is.
An E-wing. It's a ship that first appeared in the EU. It's actually it was a replacement for the X-wing.
Mm.
The High Republic makes the Jedi fucking cartoonishly good to the point where it's fucking laughable. It's
And
why
that's not interesting, man.
like there's everybody is good if you're with the Republic of the Jedi. If you're not, if you're against them, you're just evil. It's like, what kind of fucking narcissistic child wrote this shit?
and I get that it's supposed to be in the High Republic, so it's supposed to be like when it was at its quote unquote peak, but at the same time, like that's not how empires work.
The
Like
High Republic. Wait. Is it? If it was the High Republic, where the fuck is my fucking spice? So
the High Republic.
I thought it was the Spice Age. It's like, fuck. I know just going on a tangent here, but fucking Christ. It's like, is it not to mention all these new shows? They're just so fucking boring. The kind of fucking stories are being told. I'm just not interested in most of this stuff. And I think
I
might
want to watch. Sorry, I might want to watch Andor because it's at least where his story ends, and it's kind of like self-contained, and nothing
Andor is
crazy
the only
happens.
one I'm interested in because it looks like something different.
Exactly, I'm interested in that. The other one, I love Ian McGregor as Obi-Wan, but I can't bring myself to watch it. Like I'm watching other things. Like yeah,
My issue with Kenobi in general is okay. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it is, but it had a lot of problems. Like the production value looks fucking cheap.
oh,
I don't think the story was necessary to be told. We kind of already had an idea how Obi-Wan got to where he was. Now I don't mind having a broken Obi-Wan. I just would have rather had it been done in a better story.
there is EU stories about Obi-Wan on Tatooine after the fall of the Jedi.
I know there is, but the thing is, I think Kenobi, I just feel like it needed more time in the oven.
Okay, in Kenobi, does he fight a Tusken Raider ex Jedi?
No. Oh, no,
Okay.
not in canon.
I know, but in
In the
I'm
EU,
talking
he
about
does.
in the new show.
No.
If no, then I'm not interested.
I like Obi-Wan. I like Obi-Wan Kenobi too, but I think it could have been a lot better. I don't think he needed Darth Vader in the show. That's another issue I have with it.
As soon as I heard that, I'm like, that doesn't make sense because that makes their next meeting on the Death Star kind of like, oh, hey, like it's not as impactful. But
well, I don't know. I just feel like it's just trying to pander. Like, oh, Darth Vader and Luke will have the fight of the century. The thing is, I would have rather the show just been about Obi-Wan's inner struggle of folk on reconnecting to the Force and believing it again. I feel like we had a human component that I feel like that we lost by making this show like be him traveling to multiple worlds. I would have rather had the show just been about a spiritual journey about Kenobi, like rediscovering himself, or having, I don't know.
But Dark Zenobia, you can't tell a story like that in Star Wars. That's boring, is what people would say.
Of course
But
they would.
I disagree. I think that would be much more interesting.
Yeah, because Obi-Wan lost everything, and I just feel like seeing Obi-Wan at his lowest point and then seeing him rise up again would be a far more impactful story than seeing what we saw in Kenobi.
And again, I can't speak fully on Kenobi because I haven't watched it, but yeah.
And I feel like him like losing it. I feel like he should have. It should have taken him a lot longer to reconnect with the Force and having it happen very early in the show. I feel like it should have happened like towards the end of his journey, not the beginning. I think Reva was a decent character. I think the problem was she, again, like the show is overloaded with characters, in my opinion.
All the new Star Wars shows are like,
and I do agree with like the earlier comment about a lot of the new Star Wars villains are just one dimensional. It's true. They're one dimensional, but I don't think it just applies to the villains. I think it applies to the characters as a whole. Any new character that gets introduced, they all feel one dimensional. They don't feel like actual characters at all. They just have one trait about them, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't think this has anything to do with why young people just cannot vibe with Star Wars. I just feel like the new stuff just feels like a copy of stuff that came before, and they're just not in for it. I just
that is a reason why. Then, yeah, like.
And I'm mostly going by the movies because the movies have the biggest audience, not the shows.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't be bothered because Star Wars is not on the silver screen. It's supposed to be a movie series. Mm-hmm. And the only people that care about the new shows are not new fans. It's old fans mostly.
Do you think that having the shows kind of like, let's put aside everything else and say that it was just movies. Do you think that the shows kind of cheapen that? At least the live action shows?
I think they do. The amount of them that exist.
I would say so, yeah.
Because Star Wars is no longer an event like it used to be. Like it's interesting when you go back. I'm going back to when The Last Jedi came out, at least around that period.
Mm-hmm.
Infinity War felt like an event. Well, The Last Jedi just felt like another movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with Solo. And then when Avengers Endgame came out a year later, Avengers Endgame felt like an event. The Rise of Skywalker was whatever.
Yeah. And it's funny to look back and think, oh, this was like, this is Star Wars, and it got so destroyed by Marvel, which hadn't been that popular since at least the first Avengers movie came out. Like, holy shit! Like,
well, I think Marvel's another thing that killed Star Wars for the young generation.
Yeah, definitely. That and anime and other forms of streamable entertainment. Like,
well, I feel like the same thing that's killing Star Wars is killing Marvel too. The fucking Marvel shows.
Yeah.
Like,
I haven't seen a single Marvel show, but I've just heard people talk about it. So you tell me.
Well, I've only seen WandaVision. That's all I've seen, and it's pretty pointless to even watch if because the director of like Doctor Strange 2 completely ignored it.
Mm.
He didn't want to watch it because he felt like he shouldn't have to. I think there was a meme that was making fun of it's like nobody watched that shit.
Not even the director.
Well, it's like I think these shows, I think that they're just they overestimate the attention span that people have.
Yeah.
Like most people are not going to engage with all these mediums, and Star Wars is just not that kind of. I feel like if Star Wars had something that truly stood out, that told a new story in the live action series, I think we wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, I feel like, and I probably gonna sound like a broken record. I think the Old Republic is an overrated era. I'm honestly, but
Interesting. Okay.
if we were gonna do something in the Old Republic era, that and we had a Star Wars story that's basically on the scale of Game of Thrones minus this incest and sex, I think you'd have a lot more attention from people, and not to mention not have these fucking episodes be like 30 minutes, but have them be an hour long and have them be like 10 episode seasons,
like a premium HBO kind of show.
Yeah, have it be like so far removed from the movies, so it's its own thing. So it's not in this weird era that takes place in between trilogies. I feel like
might I just say that's one of the worst times they could have set those. Like, I don't know.
But now, like, freaking, I'm just gonna say this. I'm one character I'm sick of seeing is Ahsoka Tano, and I know I'm gonna piss off some people who are fans of. Oh wait, Dark Nova, why are you hating on Ahsoka? She's a character that should have been retired a long time ago.
A character that even though I kind of grew to like a little bit, I would say shouldn't exist. But
I'm not gonna say she shouldn't exist, but I just feel like
I think it doesn't make sense for Anakin to be responsible enough during the Clone Wars of all things to take a Padawan. That just seems like. But anyways,
my opinion about Ahsoka is I just feel like she shouldn't be alive this long. It just feels like Dave Filoni's influence on the franchise is the reason why she's still around.
It should have been Shaq T, god damn it.
Though, I will be real, this isn't a hot take. If I had to choose between Rey reviving the Jedi or Ahsoka, I'll choose Ahsoka. And I'm not going to back down on that one. If Dave Filoni could take Rey Palpatine from reviving the Jedi and give it to Ahsoka, he will forever be in my debt. And did this? Oh, apparently, let's see what happened to Maxwell. He's been kicked off. Of course, it's probably on his end. All right. Shit. I'll just have to. Okay, just give me a second. Yeah. All right. Okay, I spelled that wrong. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Fuck the CIA. Who knows? Damn it! We were just getting into an interesting conversation. Sorry, guys. Oh, what happened?
Sorry, I got disconnected. Sorry.
That's okay. But
I'm only using StreamYard on like the browser, so sorry about that.
On your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm using it on my computer, so yeah.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like Ahsoka should have not be around this long. At least I don't think so, but that's my personal opinion. And as I said before, you were kicked off. If Dave Filoni could make it so Rey doesn't revive the Jedi, but Ahsoka does instead, we'd forever be grateful.
His last good thing he could do if he did anything good was
because at least a Skywalker would have helped revive the Jedi, and I view Ahsoka as a Skywalker unofficially. So yeah, fuck Rey. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't make it a secret I dislike her, but then again, it's not for misogynistic reasons like sequel fans like to claim. Oh my god. You know what's ridiculous about, speaking of which, of sequel? How is there still sequel fans defending the fucking sequels?
I don't know. I could see it after Force Awakens, maybe, because it's just nostalgia for people. After Last Jedi, maybe, because it was interesting. But after fucking Rise of Shitwalker, like, come on.
Wait, I know. A bunch of incels are fucking triggered because yeah. It's like, are you fucking serious? This is an animated fucking character. Oh my god. these reactionaries just have nothing better to do than to complain about everything and anything. And then they'll watch it anyway, claiming that they hate it, but they watch it anyway.
Nothing better to do.
This is the state of entertainment. This is why it's so exhausting. I think another reason why those who just tune out of entertain a lot of this stuff in general, it's like when they look at a bunch of 40-year-old man children fucking complaining about fucking the stupidest crap. It's like it's off-putting.
Yeah.
Like all these fucking communities are turning people away, and it's like, and why would they want to be part of these?
You can get into stuff and enjoy it on your own terms and like it for its own reasons, I think. But if you want to talk about it with other people because other people enjoy it, Star Wars, I think, used to be an okay place to do that. Maybe not as good as other like fan groups that I've seen, and now it's just fucking awful. Like, why would you even want to? Like, that whole scene turned me off so much since the sequel movies came out. So it's like, why would kids even want to bother? Like, if you want to go and talk with someone about Star Wars and they're all going to be shitheads about it, like.
I stopped talking about Star Wars at my previous job because it got more stressful to talk about it.
And that should be one of the better parts of your day, like at least at work. Like, oh man.
What's funny, I used to be called the Star Wars guy. I stopped being the Star Wars guy because I stopped talking about it. Because I made my feelings towards the sequels well known, or my distaste for the nostalgia era of Star Wars. That I want to go beyond X-wings and TIE fighters, and I'm sick of seeing. I want something new.
Yeah. But I think the state of Star Wars is really reflective of just how entertainment is these days too. Like you said, we're seeing that with Marvel too. Like, it's having that falling off that Star Wars is also having, and I don't think that's like a coincidence. Capitalism is going to run out of ideas if they only continue to support the things that they know are going to make money. And then those things will steadily make less and less money because people are sick of it, and the rate of profit will fall. Like, that's just how it works.
Is the opium of the masses.
In the modern era, probably, yeah.
Yeah, reactionaries do want to turn people away from politics, but I don't think they're going to succeed at that. Those who actually care about the issues, reactionaries are not going to actually turn people away. In fact, they're going to make them more determined to be political. I don't. The thing is, I think I should explain this for those of you who don't know Ewoks Unhinged. Those who fucking give a shit about that awful fucking. What is that channel called now? Dialectics Unhinged? Where the fuck is Be Liberal?
Great name, wow.
What?
Great name, wow.
Dialectics Unhinged. You know, when I first heard that name and I did it on a live stream, I was laughing so hard I couldn't speak for almost 2 minutes.
It should just be Unhinged. Like, that's it.
Ewoks Unhinged was such a cool name, too. And you chose it to something awful, something so bad. It's like, what the fuck is that? Is this? Yeah, for those of you who hate B-Level, that's a jab at him, but still, it's fucking hilarious. I bring this up because the original reason for Ewoks Unhinged, the reason why I wanted to do it, was not because I wanted to be involved politically. I didn't, because I feel like there's people that are far more qualified than me that could do what I'm currently doing now. I wanted to stop the spread of fascism in fandoms because I saw that was a breeding ground for recruitment.
Yeah.
And I felt like that this would be a good way to slow it down, is to do it use my strengths to its advantage. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. Unfortunately, because those people, let's just say most people don't. Let's just say people, when you get involved in fandoms, don't give a flying fuck about morality in fandom. In fact, Captain Ford, what the hell his name is? Captain Fordo. Well, I forgot his name. Task Larkin doesn't care about, morality in fandom. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the open racism, transphobia, or Nazi like that are open. In fact, Tad Larkin is that falling out I have with that's a long story. It's revolving the Matt Wilkins situation, which is I don't want to discuss in depth anymore. Tad Larkin didn't give a fuck about what was going about the morality in fandom, or the fandom menace is open like fascist rhetoric. So I haven't watched anything he's actually has made. I don't even know what he does anymore. I'm just using him as an example because I used to follow him. The Fascist Cantina. Oh, I'm sorry. The Scoundrels Cantina. Probably were my claim to fame when it came to speaking against fascism and fandom. It's like at the end of the day, just nobody fucking cared in the Star Wars fandom, it felt like. And what really pisses me off, and I will say this, and I'm not saying this to be bitter, I'm just saying this because I fucking warned you fuckers way before, and you've ignored me. When you have YouTubers, I forgot that one guy's name. He's from the UK. He's talked about this. It's like, yeah, you're fucking you're like 4 years too late, dude. I've known about this since 2018. It's like, I knew writing was on the wall when it came to like the fandom menace in 2018. And I know I continue speaking about this, but I feel like it's important to say, yes, I still had some reactionary positions back then, but I saw writing was on the wall. I knew that the fandom menace would go more fascist, openly fascist, over give it enough time. I saw it coming in 2018 when we had people like Doomcock, who I don't know why anybody watches that fucking guy, doing Nazi dog whistles. Now, for those of you, what was the alarm bells for me when they mentioned the Jewish dog whistle for cultural Marxism? When you start seeing that discourse becoming more open in the Star Wars fandom, I was like, oh, shit. Now, I wasn't familiar. I even though I wasn't well read in the subject, I knew it was a dog whistle for Jew. Because Nazis, like anti-communists in general, anything that has a lot of their rhetoric against communists has to do with the Jews. A lot of it has to do with Jewish people. Yeah. When I hear someone casually talk about cultural Marxism, I knew that this person was a Nazi.
Yeah.
And I confronted him. I actually confronted him about it in his comment section. I was swarmed. I was called an SJW, a snowflake. Even though I point out facts that cultural Marxism is a Jewish dog, is an anti-Semitic dog whistle, one of the oldest in the book by Nazis, and yeah, well, the thing is, back then I argued with everyone. I don't do that now. I don't bother arguing with reactionaries because to me,
it's a waste of time most often.
I just fuck with them, or if I just do one comment and just move on. Or on Facebook, if I feel inclined, I give them 2 responses at most. 2. I don't read after the second one when they respond. If they respond to me again, I just block them. That's my policy. Well, I've avoided getting banned from Facebook as a result. Yes, I was talking about him. And I was pissed off that he mentioned that someone like him mentioned something like that way after the fact. And that's the thing I fucking hate about people that mention the fascism, the fandom menace. They mention it when it's safe to talk about it.
What do you
They
mean?
didn't do it when it was like when you would get swarmed or by everyone.
Oh.
Those who don't support the fandom menace and those who do. Like that's why I just got pissed. I got pissed off. And a lot of these people that are young people, I think a lot of them are from marginalized groups.
I was gonna say that too. Like, if you're from, like you're a person of color or you're LGBTQ or you're anything other than that, like, and you see the shitty people that are in Star Wars forums or making Star Wars YouTube videos, like, directly attacking you, why would you even want to be a part of that? It makes the whole thing look bad for people on the outside. Like,
Yeah, it does. Not to mention, like, the Star Wars fandom, this is not a hot take, it has a transphobia problem, and it hasn't gone away. It's gotten worse.
well, yeah, well, you saw the whole thing about the after what's her name, fucking Gina Carano said all the anti-Semitic and anti-trans stuff. People were jumping to defend her.
Even though
Like,
they hated her before she
before that, yeah, exactly. Like, oh, a woman in Mandalorian. I remember people before that were thinking she was like lesbian or something. Like, oh, I don't like this. And then
Yeah,
as soon as they said something she agreed with, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Same with fucking J.K. Rowling kind of situation, right? Like, people who don't actually give a shit about it, but until like an issue is mentioned that they agree with, they're like, oh, of course. Like,
well, there isn't one fascist these people don't support, and you know, and I'm preaching to the choir, but I will say this: yeah, Gina Carano is a fascist. You don't show up on the Daily fucking Wire and not be ideologically fascist.
or compare fucking Republicans in the U.S. to Jews during World War II. Like, some of the shit is just so fucking out there, man. Like, oh.
What's interesting, I did look it up for the hell of it. They're silent on Gaza or in Palestine right now, which is interesting. The only time they'll ever talk about it is if it involves an actor like leaving, or because of differences with a studio because of their support for Palestine.
Mm.
But that's it. They don't mention it. I wonder. I just find it interesting. Jimmy Greggs probably talks about it. I don't fucking know. I mean, they're all Trump supporters. This would be a perfect opportunity for them to dunk on Biden, but they won't. It's almost as if they just don't care, which they don't, obviously, which is for the best, but fuck.
Yeah.
They have this crazy woman who fucking has done over 1,000 videos on The Last Jedi. I won't mention her by name because I don't think she's worth talking about. She's not even that big. Barely anyone knows she exists. Again, a lot of these people don't even like each other. A lot of the fandom menace. They're not even a united group anymore. Yeah, it's just so funny how there isn't a single one of these anti-Semitic people that they don't support. And I will say this: Gina Carano is an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
There isn't one person that Ben Shapiro, and I bring up Ben Shapiro because he's important. Ben Shapiro, no, not really, but you know what I mean. Every single person that goes on Ben Shapiro's show is an anti-Semite or has said some anti-Semitic dog whistles towards Jewish people. Yet he doesn't give a fuck. That's
and
why
they think it's acceptable because Ben Shapiro, he says he's Jewish, so it gives him that safe space to literally just throw all that out there. It makes sense.
Zionist who has some creepy obsession with his sister.
And cannot pleasure his wife.
Who he may or may not be the father of her child.
Is that confirmed? Oh, God.
That was a joke, by the way. That's not.
I believe you.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm just making that as a joke.
Oh, man.
Also, this is another. I think this could apply to Harry Potter too, because I don't see that many young people talk about Harry Potter.
Harry Potter felt like much more of a fad than Star Wars. Looking back at it, at least for me, a lot of my friends were really into Harry Potter, especially like girls. But I was never really that into Harry Potter. I really liked the first two movies. I read like the first 5 or 6 books, but it just never really appealed to me that much. But I don't know. It felt like part of that generation was like the like young adult fiction kind of thing. And I know Harry Potter was before that, but when the new books came out and the new movies came out, it was kind of that dark like teenage thing. I mean, you had Twilight at the same time. You had Hunger Games, fucking Divergent, Maze Runner, all these fucking Percy Jackson fucking shows that were basically kind of in that same genre. So it felt more like a flash in a pan than Star Wars,
I
at
was
least
going
for
to
me.
say
But
this applies to the books more than the movies. If you read one Harry Potter book, you've read all of them.
yeah,
It's so formulaic. Like, it's just like I don't understand how anyone could fucking say Harry Potter is good. It's not. It's always been bad. It's always been bad. Always will be bad. Like when people talk about Harry Potter, it's J.K. Rowling that gets brought up more than the actual series itself.
yeah. Now it is, at least. Yeah.
This new Harry Potter show, it's like, what the fuck is... I know I've ranted about it already, but this show, what the fuck is the point of making this fucking reboot of Harry Potter when J.K. Rowling was involved in the movies? What, are you gonna do like a fucking... Like, how much more can you add to the fucking... to the first
So
Harry
it's
Potter?
they're doing all the original ones again in TV.
Yes.
Like the actual why? Ugh.
It's ridiculous. You don't need it. It doesn't need it.
Yeah, that's
Who gives a shit about all the cut material in from the fucking books? It was a lot of it was just crap anyway. That didn't.
most of it should have been cut. Like,
I will never read The Order of the Phoenix. Is one of the worst books I've ever fucking read.
it's so boring. It's so thick too. Like it goes on and on.
Nothing happens through most of the fucking book.
They're hiding in a house most of the time, actually.
Majority of the
something.
time. Okay, this is Order of the Phoenix is better in the movie than it is in the book because it cuts out majority of the fucking bullshit that nobody fucking cares about except Harry Potter fans.
And that movie was one of the weakest of all of them too.
It was. If we're going by if we're judging the movies based by themselves, as themselves, they were they weren't bad movies if you're judging them on their own merit. Let's be honest. The main reason people like those movies is because the actors. I talk about the trio. Like they had a very good chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot deny that, regardless how you feel about the Harry Potter series, the actors themselves had great chemistry together.
Mm-hmm.
Something I don't think you're going to replicate in another series.
Mm-hmm. And like a TV show, you're going to have to shoot it all faster, right? When in the movies, they took breaks between them so they could all kind of grow up at the same time. Like with this, it's just be like, oh, we're shooting all the show. I don't know.
It's like
I will still defend the first two Harry Potter movies because I think they're pretty good. I hate J.K. Rowling, and honestly, I don't think Harry Potter is a good series at all. But
the first two movies, I don't think you can make an adaptation of those books better than those movies.
Yeah,
you can't. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Stretch them out to fucking a book that? By the way, I'm saying this as someone who's read both books. Most of the material was faithfully adapted. There was some minor stuff they cut.
The first two are pretty short.
There's
stuff with the ghosts and all their bullshit, but
they're faithful to the book. It's only in the third movie where you start seeing more material get cut from the books. But other than one plot line that carried over from the first book, it's not much different. It's when you got to the Goblet of Fire is when you start seeing more cuts from the books. But
then again, the books get a lot longer. So, yeah.
The new generation, like what new generation? It's on fucking HBO.
I think of like 50-year-old guys when I think of HBO. Like, what kid goes on to watch HBO? Like,
not to mention
nobody.
a
They're
lot
on
of
Netflix. They're on Crunchyroll. They're on other stuff. Like,
how many people who are in my generation would want their kids to even watch have anything to do with Harry Potter? Because
yeah,
a lot of
especially
what?
like 10 years from now, like people will think Harry Potter is just like terrible. Like nobody will want to have anything to do with it.
Well, I'm talking about the generation who my age. A lot of us are old enough to have kids. It's just
Yeah.
my generation. We know about everything that J.K. Rowling's been doing, and a lot of us we have children, and a lot of the stuff that J.K. Rowling does harms children.
Yeah.
And a lot of fans of Harry Potter are from marginalized groups. A lot of them were.
Mm.
They were able to. They felt safe, but now they don't. Because a lot when it comes to these fandoms, this is not something that I think people want to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's a lot of marginalized people from marginalized backgrounds. They're actually, if anything, the most dedicated to these fandoms more than anything else.
Mm.
And they're not going to want to pass this on to their children.
Yeah.
Like, there's been a conversation for a while, ever since J.K. Rowling's like transphobia. People have re-examined the Harry Potter series. I don't see Harry Potter having a legacy that's going to be something that isn't fucking. It isn't. This isn't the case of H.P. Lovecraft, which H.P. Lovecraft did create some great works of art. Harry Potter is not a good work of art.
It's a children's book compared to like
I
crazy
don't
stuff
think-
H.P. Lovecraft is writing. Like,
I think calling it a children's book is an insult to people that actually wrote actual good literature.
there's good children's books. You're right. I shouldn't say that.
There's great, amazing work, but that's not what it's gonna be just remembered as one of those forgettable children's books that many. I'm not going to lie, a lot of children's books are forgettable and are forgotten with time. Most of them are not Chronicles of Narnia. I bring up Chronicles of Narnia because that's a book series that's still read generations later after the series.
And it's old as hell. Yeah, 60s and 70s.
It's just Harry Potter. Not even the fucking right wingers care about fucking Harry Potter.
Yeah, because before J.K. Rowling came out as super transphobic, they were like, "Oh no, Harry Potter's woke." Even when it was just liberal trash, they were like, "Oh no, this is too progressive," and they only started pretending to care when J.K. Rowling took their side on one thing. Like,
Yeah, but they don't care about Harry Potter. It's like,
yeah,
how many of them talked about Hogwarts Legacy after the game came out? The only thing people can recall from that game is that it made a lot of money. That's it. I don't hear people talk about the story in depth or how great the gameplay was.
it was a game. It came out. People played it. Yeah.
In fact, the controversy is the only reason it sold. If it weren't for the controversy, it would not have sold as well as it did.
Because, like, let's be honest, if that didn't happen, who was asking for a Harry Potter game in, like, what, 2022? Like, who was asking for that? Yeah.
I would never buy Goosebumps. Oh, yeah, oh, God. I feel old just thinking about that. A
Oh,
lot of great stories in Goosebumps. Wait, wasn't there a controversy by the right because the author wanted to alter parts of his books so it's not as offensive?
probably.
It's like
The old books, you mean?
one of his older books. Like, should the author have that right because it's his work?
Yeah.
Oh, but I thought they were for artists' rights. Apparently not.
Only when it agrees with them.
You know one of the funniest things ever is when Hogwarts Legacy fanboys lost their shit because the Game Awards did not fucking nominate Hogwarts Legacy for an award. Oh, I know about Animorphs. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to read them.
Those are old.
I've heard they're good books.
I've only read like 2 of them. I just thought the covers were interesting as a kid because some of them are fucking weird. But
The books are extremely dark.
huh?
I would love to read them. I get really pissed at J.K. At people that claim that J.K. Rowling's the only woman like author that it's like when there's so many women authors out there that exist out there, past and present, that don't get the recognition that TERF gets.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck is inspired by J.K. Rowling?
I mean, probably a lot of people in like early 2010s and like 2000s, but now I don't think anybody, like, no lasting impact really. Like, and that kind of whole like academy setting with they're like students and they're in school and they have powers. That's been done with so many other things better than Harry Potter, like before and after. So there's no reason to even go back to it in that way.
Yeah, it's like it's so pathetic. I haven't paid attention to the right wingers' hates on Wheel of Time. I didn't even know there was a right wing fan people that hate the Wheel of Time. I'm not surprised, but I wouldn't. But shit. All right, sorry. Just continue talking, Maxwell.
Sorry.
Twilight inspired more authors than not Harry Potter.
It might have, yeah. More fanfics, definitely.
I mean, there was that one. I forget what is it called? 50 Shades of Shit.
Oh God.
50 Shades of Grey, which
oh God
started off as a Twilight fan fiction. No, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? Speaking of which, there was a fan fiction that was published. Well, it's not a fan fiction, a story that started off as a Reylo fan fiction.
It's published?
Yes.
What's it called?
I don't know, and I forgot about it as soon as I found out about it.
Oh, you should read it and do a review.
Oh God. Yeah, but Wheel of Time has inspired authors. I mean, one author I can name that was inspired by Wheel of Time is, regardless, I don't know what his politics are. I don't really care because he's not harming people like J.K. Rowling is Brandon Sanderson. I think I like his books that he's written. And he's actually the guy that finished the Wheel of Time. There's a lot of jokes people make sometimes when George R. R. Martin's ever brought up. It's like, oh, don't worry, Brandon Sanderson will finish A Song of Ice and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I think George R. R. Martin basically told these fans to basically, if you don't like it, don't fucking watch it. Which caused fans to fucking react negatively to George R. R. Martin.
I think more people know about the show than the actual books now.
You know what? Even though whatever, this stream is all over the place. Whatever, it comes with the territory. One Piece will finish before Winds of Winter comes out.
And is that supposed to be the final thing for like Game of Thrones in general?
No, it's
like
the
whole franchise.
Book.
But that's supposed to be the very last?
Second to last.
Oh God. Well, they already say they're on the final arc, the Wano thing. So
no, they're not in the final arc. They're in the final saga.
Oh God. Okay.
I know it's weird because One Piece have sagas and arcs, but it's in the final saga, which is going to consist of I would be surprised the final saga of One Piece consists of probably 5 or 6 arcs. Though I'm not going to talk about One Piece because somebody may spoil it on accident, and I don't want a spoiler for One Piece.
Yeah, that's something that I think people now are even more excited about than Star Wars, like One Piece or anything like that. Just, I don't know. Star Wars doesn't have the same kind of draw anymore.
I'll go a step further and say this. This is to continue the joke. Boruto, the manga, will finish before Winds of Winter comes out.
Is that supposed to finish even?
Well, I'm talking about the whole series, the time skip and the pre-time skip. Well, the pre-time skip's already finished in Boruto, but not the time skip just started. That's why I'm saying that because Winds of Winter, it's like, what the fuck? It's never coming out. People don't expect it to come out. Just move on. I don't know what it's called. Unfortunately. Why is everyone? You know why is there still Reylos?
It's over. Forget it.
You know what? This is not a hot take. I'll say this. Shipping ruined the sequel trilogy.
No, other things ruined it, but that might have added to it.
Well, okay, but just think about it. Yes, there's a lot of issues with The Force Awakens, but when you pander to the minority of fans, okay, I know shipping culture. I know I'm saying this because I've read a lot of fan fiction, so I know what shipping culture is. It's not just fan fiction. It's also fan art, but whatever. It's fan fiction and fan art. You had this fucking ship that fucking, unfortunately, they fucking listened to freaking the most popular ship was fucking Reylo, and everything else was ruined as a result. You don't get me wrong. The characters sucked regardless, but they were made even worse. You thought Rey sucked before? Well, Reylo made her worse. I'm gonna love my abuser. I'm gonna love the guy that raped me.
Yeah, that's so fucked. Yeah.
So
it's not even like they spend enough time together, like to even get to know each other. They just kind of kiss at the end, like, oof.
I will say this though. As bad as Reylo is, it's not as bad as the Reylo before Reylo.
What is that?
Saku. That's worse than Reylo. For those of you who
Sakura?
Yeah, if those who don't understand the reference, I'm referring to the shit regarding Sakura and Sasuke. It's worse. It's Reylo before Reylo. Except I think it's worse in a lot of ways. Like, oh yeah, I'm a married the guy that tried to kill me multiple times, and he doesn't give a shit about me.
Just says you're boring and walks away after knocking you out.
You're annoying.
You're annoying.
I'm sorry, I had to make that joke. I hate Saku as more than Reylo actually, but then again, that's another story for another time.
Sasuke is a better character than Kylo Ren, at least.
Kylo Ren's a bitch. Kylo Ren is he's basically the target market version of Jason Solo.
I can't even compare the two in my mind, but yeah.
Well, he looks like a shittier version of Revan if we're going by with his mask.
His mask, yeah. I think they tried to appeal to like young people, but also to appeal to like Star Wars, like original trilogy purists when they designed and made those new movies, because it definitely feels like that. Like, oh, we'll have a younger antagonist who's not in a mask, and oh, he's very complicated, but he's not really. He's just a whiny bitch. Like, I don't think Pain is like Kylo Ren.
Don't even compare. Pain's is a great character. Don't even compare him to Kylo Ren. No.
Come on. No.
I mean, Kylo Ren is an awful character, and there's people who say Kylo Ren is the deepest Star Wars villain. It's like, what the fuck? There's nothing deep about him. This is before Last Jedi came out.
About as deep as a puddle, yeah. But no, Pain is a cool character. His backstory is very, very sad though. But yeah, no, Kylo Ren is. But yeah,
Like, and the sequel trilogy ruined Palpatine.
it made him into a joke. I mean, yeah, Palpatine's kind of funny when he's throwing Senate seats at Yoda, yeah, but he's still intimidating at least. Like now, he's literally just a joke. He's like a Muppet that they pop up at the end of the show to be like, "Wow!" Like,
People could say what they want about Dark Empire. At least it didn't disgrace Darth Sidious like Rise of Skywalker did.
yeah, I never thought that was good, at least even in
Okay,
that. But
yes,
that was better than.
yes, he died pitifully in Empire's End, but I think that's kind of fitting for someone like Palpatine. For someone
Yeah.
so powerful to die in such a pitiful way, I do think is fitting for his character. Like he's someone that had all this power and then he loses it all.
Palpatine in the sequels is nothing more than a Power Rangers villain. Yeah, that's
What?
true. Reading the comments, Palpatine in the sequels is nothing more than a Power Rangers villain.
That's an insult to Power Rangers villains. There are actual Power Rangers villains. And for the love of God, okay, I'm gonna go on a tangent here. Of course, this applies. This is one of the reasons why I think Power Rangers sucks now compared to what it did in the 2000s and late 90s. I am sick of the NPR pandering. Power Rangers, when it came to great villains, it was NPR, which is short for Mighty Morphin, was never the series that had great villains. I can list multiple villains in Power Rangers that are great. I don't think comparing Palpatine and Rise of Skywalker to a Power Rangers villain is right. It's insulting. Especially when you have the likes of Draconda, Astronema, Eclipsor. I'm just listening to just a few examples, that's Power Rangers in Space, which is, in my opinion, the best Power Rangers season ever. Trakina and Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. It's like there's so many villains I can name in Power Rangers, like that come after Mighty Morphin, not during Mighty Morphin, after Mighty Morphin. Of course, what's unfortunate, that's a topic for another. I could talk about how Power Rangers. The unfortunate is most fans don't know that there's a lot of great villains in Power Rangers. It's just most of the well-known villains are not really that good, to be honest with you. Lord Zed is cool looking. Don't get me wrong. I think his design holds up. What?
No, I was just blowing my nose. Sorry.
Lord Zed looks cool as a character, as a villain. I think it still holds up. He looks like something from a horror movie. Like, I'm surprised they actually managed to do that kind of character with that kind of design. And his voice is just and Mighty Morphin was just great, but that's all there was to Lord Zed. He was just a cool-looking villain that had some funny lines from time to time. There was nothing deep about him. There was nothing more to him. Yeah, fuck the Neo Saban era Power Rangers. In fact, the only good thing that came out of the Neo Saban era is the Boom Studios comics. If you're wondering what the Boom Studios comics are for Power Rangers, it's a reimagining for NPR.
What era? Sorry, go ahead.
It's basically based on Mighty Morphin, the Boom Studios comics, but it takes aspect from other Power Rangers series.
Sorry, go ahead.
Say it.
The ones with like the beasts and the dinosaurs, and then like the rescue ones, was the ones I was most familiar with as a kid.
The Beast. What are you referring to about the Beast? You're talking about Wild Force?
They're like they turn into like dinosaurs or something.
Which Power Ranger series? There's multiple series that have dinosaurs. There's Dino Thunder, there's Dino Charge, and there's Mighty Morphin.
It's not Mighty Morphin. It was one of the newer ones.
It must be Dino Thunder then. If you're referring to the dinosaurs, it's Dino Thunder.
Okay. What was like the rescue theme one? Like
rescue theme one was Lightspeed Rescue.
Okay. Those are the ones I probably watched.
Well, Lightspeed Rescue was the first after Lost Galaxy to actually. It was not a reboot of the franchise, but a soft reboot where the series started to become more self-contained. Not saying you had to watch every series prior to it, but they went the Super Sentai approach, where they reset it every season, where they just started over, not storyline wise, but the cast. Shredder from Team NT. Which Shredder are we talking about? There's multiple Shredders. Though I'll go out on a limb and say even the next mutation Shredder, which is the worst Shredder of all time, is better than Kylo Ren as a character.
Kylo Ren's one of the worst villains, if not the worst characters in general. It's hard to.
He's one of the worst characters under that. Of all fiction. It's like what the fuck is it about this character that people like? You know, another thing.
They're probably just people who are literally like him, like angry about things that are out of their control and whiny, and not like Anakin, where it's like in an actual like he has actual reasons for the way he is. It's just you're privileged and you're like whiny.
I don't think it should have ended within space. As much as tempting as that is to say. There's some great series that came out afterwards. Time Force is one of the best Power Ranger seasons of all time. We would have never gotten Time Force or Lost Galaxy or Dino Thunder or RPM, which are considered some of the best seasons ever if it ended in space. So no, I don't agree. Even though it would have been a cathartic ending, but it would. But then again, it only would have been that good if it ended with the original cast. But it didn't. It ended with a different cast of characters that switched over from the season prior, and I don't know. I think it would have been a waste to end it there. Yeah.
Darth Nihilus would destroy Rey. You're right. Dub Monkey.
Yes.
Any of the old Sith would, pretty much. Like, who knew how to use a lightsaber?
I have a hard to difficult. You know what? Speaking of Kylo Ren, I think Kylo Ren losing to Rey was bullshit.
I'm just glad he died.
I am too, but in the Force Awakens, him losing was bullshit. He should not have lost.
Oh, in the Force Awakens? Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's fucking bullshit. Yes, it should. If we're going to avoid the Neo Saban era, yes, you're correct. It should have ended with RPM because RPM was the last season that fans could agree was good. Ironically, for those of you who don't know anything about the Sentai that RPM took footage from, the Sentai is actually kind of like a comedy at times. And one of the actors, not the Ranger, but one, or is it one of the Rangers or one of the villains, was a porn star. Hey, don't ask me how I know these things. I just look up their choreography just for curiosity. Of course, if you want to sum it up, Power Ranger Samurai in a nutshell, Shinkenger, except with American actors.
Oh.
Of course, you're probably wondering what Shinkenger is the Sentai counterpart to Samurai. The reason why I say it's basically
Super Sentai is what stock footage is used in what we know as Power Rangers that's cut with they're American actors, right?
Yes, though they're not the same franchise because the stories and the shows, with a few exceptions, are different. It's basically an adaptation. Like Time Force is the one of the few Sentai that is almost a shot-for-shot adaptation, but not in a bad way, because there's still enough differences between the characters and their Sentai counterparts where it's not jarring watching both shows. Though if you're watching shows like SPD and Docker Ranger or Samurai, which is Samurai is the most egregious example of an adaptation. You're not changing my mind. I think Super Sentai is better than Power Rangers. It's the original. Though there are some exceptions that the Power Rangers version is better, but not very often. No, I'm not gonna lie. Power Rangers Season 1 is a guilty pleasure for me. Like,
I don't know, those shows were never my favorite as a kid. I was more drawn to like cartoons at the time, but I like some of the like just machines and monsters I thought were cool, but
well, the reason why I say it's a guilty pleasure because if you've watched the Sentai, or you'll know it's like, oh wait, there's a Japanese kanji here. This is Angel Grove. Actually, no, this is Tokyo. Oh, there's a poor edit here. There's a poor edit there. Oh wait, there's one of the Japanese actors for one of the characters. Season 1 of Mighty Morphin's so bad in terms of its editing. It's hilarious. Also, the acting is pretty bad as well. And some of the dialogue, it's just okay. I'm not saying this to hate on Season 1 of Mighty Morphin. I'm saying it's a guilty pleasure. I don't think it's a good show by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're looking for a good time and you're just looking for a laugh, I think it's fun. You'll have a fun time. I mean, the quality of the show does improve in the follow-up seasons, like season 2 and 3. Even though season 1's the most iconic, the seasons got better over time. Because any Power Rangers fan that's going to say Mighty Morphin's the best Power Rangers series will be laughed by most Power Rangers fans out of the room. Believe it or not, there is an anti-Mighty Morphin like treaded amongst Power Rangers fans in some groups. And again, we've been talking about Power Rangers for a while. Again, this is fucking ridiculous. Oh yeah, Joker is an amazing character.
Yeah. Don't even compare.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh, did you know that the Sentai counterpart for Trini is actually a guy?
Is the stunt guy like a guy then?
No.
In the
Okay.
yellow suit? Oh.
Okay. Back in the 1990s, Power Rangers wanted to have two women on the same team, or let's say two girls because they're supposed to be teenagers. Let's be honest, the actors were adults. Yeah. They weren't teenagers. Yeah. It wasn't until like the 2010s where you had actual teenagers play teenagers. Well, they weren't old. They were like in their early 20s to late teens to early 20s. Mm-hmm. But still, it still applies. And the Sentai counterpart, majority of the time, the Yellow Ranger is a guy.
Mm-hmm.
While in the Power Rangers version, Yellow was associated with a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Things got weird though when there were seasons that did not have a Yellow Ranger, so they stopped doing that after a while. But of course, Peak is always female, but I'm going by Yellow could be either a guy or a female. It's gender neutral in Japan. White is also mostly a woman is actually a white rather than a man, unless they're like a sixth ranger. Though of course, sixth was not a thing in early Super Sentai. It wasn't a thing until after Zyuranger, which is what Mighty Morphin was based off of. So Mighty Morphin.
That's just a season of Super Sentai, though, right?
Yes.
Zyuranger or whatever. Okay.
Yes, Zyuranger is a season of Super Sentai, and the Mighty Morphin, for 2 seasons after Mighty Morphin, they didn't have any Zyuranger footage to pull from, so they created more their own footage in order to keep the suits on longer.
Mhm.
Though the reason why in Zeo they switched to having suits every year after that because it got too expensive filming new footage because 80% of the footage was in season 2 and 3 was not Sentai footage. The only Sentai footage was mostly the Zords.
Mm.
And that's why they did that as a cost-saving measure because it's cheaper to have the same suits from the Sentai to the Power Rangers counterparts. And then you had Turbo, which is one of the Turbo is one of those series like. God, I'm just giving it feels like I'm just giving a lesson on fucking what Super Sentai and Power Rangers is. But I just find it fascinating talking about it. Like Turbo, for those of you,
what's the gimmick to Turbo?
Okay, Turbo and the Sentai and the Power Rangers counterpart, they're so different tone that it's like, wait, what? In the Sentai, what is it called? Car Ranger is a parody of Super Sentai. Like it doesn't take itself seriously. Like it has there's a lot of adult jokes which would be considered in the West, and it would not be appropriate for children. Some of the humor, like some of the gimmicks for the weapons and the mecha was obviously to sell toys because the Sentai that came before it did horribly in Japan. Which the reason why that is there was a terrorist attack that happened in Japan back then. That was a cult.
Oh, I've heard about that in the subway or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the villains and the Sentai were something similar to that cult.
Oh.
So then it drastically changed the show while it was in production. So the tone, which was a grim, dark Super Sentai, to something lighthearted, like in the span of an episode. So whatever they had planned for the show was completely thrown out the window. And it almost killed the Sentai as a result because the toys didn't sell too well. The mechas just, I don't think, vied well with the audience because the mech is important when it comes to Sentai, whether it's going to do well or not. Anyway, Turbo didn't do well when it came out here. It's ironic. Car Rangers saved Sentai. Well, Turbo almost killed Power Rangers. And Turbo, another reason for that is Turbo didn't use most of the footage. 80% of the footage was shot because they couldn't use any of it because it would clash with the kind of stories they were going to tell. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense. Because again, it's a parody. It was a really goofy show, and you couldn't use most of the footage. Then in Space, the follow-up season, which is the season where it's basically Power Rangers meets Star Trek and Star Wars. They had a problem with that show. Mega Ranger, which I've seen, by the way, those shows are different. Mega Ranger, they're teenagers, and they actually were played by teenagers actually in Japan. Was basically about technology and video games. While the Power Rangers counterpart, they look at the footage like, wow, this is a space show. This is cool. The kids will like this. Oh shit, we have nothing to work with. So they decided just to fuck it and just tell the story they want to tell and just make do what they had. And Power Rangers in Space, if you watch the show, it'll be interesting. It actually was one of the most creative like shows that actually took Japanese footage and tried to incorporate it into its own story. So it actually, if you were to watch both shows, they feel completely different. Like it was the first time Power Rangers did, instead of doing episodic stories, it did serialized stories, which would carry over to the series that would come after it. And until like fucking Saban fucking regressed Power Rangers back to being Mighty Morphin again. Again, I guess that's
again going back to nostalgia and
what capitalism.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that
Yeah.
Power Rangers fans that kept Power Rangers alive after fucking Mighty Morphin didn't watch anything past it, and majority of the fans that kept it alive weren't even fans of NPR.
Hmm.
Of course, the Disney era is when things started to change for Power Rangers, where they actually had teenage actors playing playing teenagers,
When was that? When did they get bought by Disney?
or close enough to looking like teenagers. That was Ninja Storm, and Dino Thunder. That was the first time they added those. I think Dino Thunder was actually the first.
Huh. So probably the ones I saw then.
Actually, that was Dino Thunder was actually one of the few occasions, if we're going by media that handles legacy characters, that actually handles a legacy character well and didn't disrespect.
One of the few random examples.
Well, okay, Tommy Oliver in this show focused what was a mentor to the Rangers, which is okay. That's an interesting way to take his character. Not to mention, like, an aspect of the show that might have explored him having an identity crisis at one point. Like, was he Tommy or was he the Powers? I'm not saying it's great or anything. I'm just bringing this up that Power Rangers used to know how to handle its own characters and legacy characters and not just do nostalgia. But I think as things go on in capitalism, they cater to the most vocal minority of people rather than the majority.
Wasn't there like a shitty Power Rangers movie like a year or so ago, or like 2 years ago?
You mean the 2017 movie?
Oh, 2017. Okay.
I don't think the movie was that bad, to be honest with you. I don't think it was.
I haven't seen it, but
I don't think it was that bad. I mean, though, if that to be honest, I feel like it would have been a lot. It could have been a lot better if we didn't go for this like Christopher Nolan, like, oh, everything has to be
dark, bleak. Yeah.
Yes, I think it took itself a little too seriously.
Mm.
But I did appreciate the fact that the Rangers themselves had actual characterization.
Mm.
And I'm surprised the right wing didn't lose their shit because one of the Rangers was a lesbian.
Mm.
Of course, we can't even talk about Power Rangers without talking about the homophobe himself, Saban. Of course, that's a can of worms. What?
What do you mean?
David Yost, the actor who played Billy. Those in my audience, you probably will know this, or you may or may not know this. If you're wondering, in the first 5 seasons of Power Rangers, it was quite often that, well, minus Mighty Morphin, it was quite often for actors to leave, whether it's disputes because of because of wages, or they don't, or they just want to replace or the person doesn't want to do it anymore. Sorry, I'm just okay. Anyway, David Yost was treated horribly on set by the staff because the actor was gay.
Because he was gay?
Yes. Oh. And it got to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. And he left in the middle of Zeo. He was involved in the Turbo movie, but he couldn't do it anymore. You can look it up on YouTube why he left the show. And
that's fucked. So they like forced him out basically by being homophobic to him.
Yes, and that did not change. Saban's a piece of shit. He really is a piece of shit. Like that's why we have not seen any LGBTQ Rangers at this point of the franchise because of the person that owned it. We saw nobody from the LGBTQ community in Power Rangers outside of comic books at this point.
I thought you said they had it in the movie with a lesbian or something.
Yes.
Is that not made by the Saban company or what?
I don't know how they managed to do it. Probably because I don't know. The guy had an ego. I know he bought Power Rangers back from Disney but it doesn't matter. The guy obviously was out of his depth. Anyway, like there's many reasons why he has not returned for any specials until the recent ones, like with the anniversary special for Mighty Morphin and Cosmic Fury. It's because of the people that ran the company.
That's fucked.
Yeah, it was. Well, that's the whole reason why he did not return. Like you can look it up. In fact, what's actually interesting, when I learned about that actually soured my rewatch of Turbo because it was difficult, not Turbo, Zeo, because it was difficult to watch, knowing what the actor was going through behind the scenes. It's like, wow, what the fuck? Of course, Power Rangers is not the only fucking franchise that has that problem with people like doing that.
Probably more than we think, but we don't know about.
Like I said, Power Rangers is starting to have LGBTQ characters now, but that's not on screen. That's mostly in the comics. The Boom Studios comics are the ones that are actually doing that now. Which is what I bring up the Boom Studios comics, because if you've read the IDW TMNT comics, which I think everyone who's a fan of TMNT should, the Boom Studios Power Rangers comics takes the original 5 Rangers and adds a lot of dimensions to them to make them more like 3-dimensional characters. I mean, they took the traits that were already there and expand upon them. Like, why is Jason so serious about training and discipline? He was a bully, and he sees what he's doing as a way to redeem himself for who he was in the past. Like, Kimberly's like, actually, Kimberly, even in the show itself, it was one episode. It was the first time you saw in kids' media of a character having parents that were divorced. So that's expanded upon in the comics. Trini's like background is expanded upon. But it's actually ironic. Because the show itself was racist. Like Christopher Parker pointed out earlier, Mighty Morphin. But the comic itself, she's actually Vietnamese, the character in her background. While in the show, it wasn't clear if she was Chinese or Vietnamese. Because the ignorance of white people.
And just using a generic Asian-sounding name, like a lot of times they do.
Yeah, she's actually Vietnamese in the comics. Billy is greatly expanded upon, along with like Zach. Of course, the Rangers that replace them also have their basic character traits expanded upon. Like I bring up the comics because the comics do what the shows never could, and I think they're worth checking out. Though I think we've been spending long enough talking about this, because I think we need to. And again, when this stream is going on for a long time, I have never watched either show. I cannot comment. I really cannot. And I have. You know what's interesting about Breaking Bad? I never saw the show. The person who works on Breaking Bad hates the character the main character from Breaking Bad.
Really?
Yes.
I watched a few episodes of it.
Because
I never really got into it that much.
Because so many people like simp for him.
Yeah, he's kind of like just a tragic character. He's not necessarily a good guy.
Tragic characters don't have to be good people.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something that's generally been lost. And if it isn't lost, then it's like twisted the other way. So there's a whole bunch of like weird like incel simps who think like these characters are the heroes when they're not.
Well, I don't care what
like
anyone says.
Jason made a video about Fight Club, where people think like his alter ego is like the good guy. When no, he's not. He's literally like all the bad parts of the main character. Like,
I don't care what anyone says. Edelgard and Fire Emblem Three Houses and the Three Hopes did nothing wrong. She's the hero of those games. Fight me. Of course, if I were to go to, I don't know, the reactionaries they think she's are against her character. But me in turn wants to be support her. I'm not saying she's a best person, mind you. She's done some things that you cannot overlook, but she wants to overthrow the oppressive system in her world and not support it. Doesn't want to reinforce it. So yeah. Of course, Three Houses, if you have a Switch, is definitely a game worth playing. Though it's actually becoming difficult to find a physical copy at this point. Just letting for those of you who want to know, because if you want to get it, if you want to get a copy, digital is probably your easiest bet. Though Nintendo doesn't fucking lower their prices for any of their fucking games.
Yeah, even when they sell like old ones, they're still like $60, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, you know what? You can blame the dumbass fucking gamers who fucking keep fucking supporting companies like Nintendo.
As much as I hate Microsoft and Sony, like Nintendo fans are just some of the worst. Like
I fucking hate Nintendo fans. It's like they'll defend everything. You know what? One series you'll fucking it's pathetic that you get people defending it. Pokemon.
You don't like Pokemon at all? You think it's pathetic?
I used to love Pokemon, but
Okay.
the series has gradually gotten worse ever since the 3DS.
I agree. Yeah.
Like
the last one I played was fucking I think it was Y, I believe, and that was on the 3DS.
I haven't seen either show. I cannot comment on either one. So I'm sorry.
I remember Ben 10.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben 10 was on Teletoon, so that would have been like the American counterpart would be Cartoon Network. But yeah.
Okay.
I remember Ben 10.
Okay, I don't hate Nintendo. I love their games, but I fucking hate.
I like. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Like they make really good products and stuff. And some of their games are like amazing classics, but it's funny how much the fans are willing to simp for them and how they'll just get excited about the most minute, like stupid things that happen. Yeah. I don't know.
Though one thing I wonder, when speaking of Nintendo, how the fuck are they going to release Fire Emblem 4 if they remake it?
Why's that? Oh, because you told me about this. The some of the certain optional plot lines.
It's not it's not optional plot lines. It's in the story.
Oh.
The marriage options are optional, but not the plot line. It's like, how the fuck are they going to release that? I want to play the game, of course, because I'm a Fire Emblem fan, but how the fuck are they going to do that without
It's all well and good when it's in 16 bits, but when you got to bring it to HD,
well, I don't.
A little more.
I wouldn't mind playing 16-bit, but I'll play if I have to. But I'm saying I'd rather play it in an HD version. We'll have voice acting. The story will be expanded upon. That's why I'd rather wait. But again, I don't know if I can wait too much longer. As I want to play Fire Emblem, the Holy War. I think that's what it's called. It's the most popular Fire Emblem in Japan. It's the Fire Emblem that put the series on the map.
Huh.
It's the highest selling game in the series. Well, until Three Houses, anyway.
Didn't the first game come out under a different name in the West?
Okay, the first game that came out in the West is called Fire Emblem Blazing Sword. Which that's. Oh no! Wait, no. What is it? Is that? Hold on. No, not Blazing Sword of Blinding Blade. I'm sorry. Okay, no. Blinding Blade is Roy's game. Blazing Sword is Fire Emblem 8. Never mind. Sorry, it's you have the Sacred Stone, which was the second game. Though I could make some jokes, but I don't know. I'm refrained from doing that on this stream. Let's just say, don't look up the family tree for Fire Emblem 4, and if you want to know the joke, why I'm refrained from making a joke like this, just look up Fire Emblem 4's family tree. I'm sorry. It's a popular joke in the Fire Emblem fandom.
From the same company that brought you Kirby and Yoshi.
Sweet Home Alabama. I'm sorry.
Oh
Oh, oh God. Well, Three Houses, as much as I love that game, it has that thing in there. And then
Isn't
again,
it
it's not
optional?
Fire Emblem without it. Not saying I would want it in every game. I did this as a joke. It's not Fire Emblem without it. God, this stream is not fucking. It's gone way off topic. Yes, that's what I was talking about. If you've talked to if you've been around the Fire Emblem fan base long enough, you'll hear a joke like that from time to time. Oh God, what the fuck happened to this stream? Shit.
From Star Wars to Fire Emblem incest. Lovely.
Well, I think we're getting close to the end because I feel like we're just gonna. This is
have mostly brought up all our main topics, I'd say.
I think
and many other.
I think to bring the topic back, I think why is Star Wars not catering to young people? I just feel like those who own Star Wars don't understand young people at all.
Yeah,
I don't. They're treating like the world is the same as it was 20 years ago or even 30 years ago.
Part of that is the nostalgia pandering, but yeah, no, definitely. And that can only get you so far.
Like
once
I don't have no thoughts on it. Sorry, Christopher Parker. Sorry, no thoughts. Okay, say that again.
Well, I was just saying that's like part of the whole just nostalgia, going for things they know works, and once that dries up, like people aren't interested in anything new you're putting out because you're not putting out anything new, and you don't know what these people want because you're so stuck on what quote unquote works, even though I don't think it does.
Well, the very fact is that Disney had a gold mine, and they when it comes to video games, and they don't even have a developer studio.
Yeah, they're just re-releasing old games, which is fine, but
like that's gonna eventually dry up. Eventually, there's only so many games you could re-release.
Yeah, and they made those Jedi Fallen Order games, which I know some people
not to have an issue with bringing these games to modern platforms.
I guess those games are kind of old now, but yeah.
Well, I have no issue with them being re-released, so they're available on modern platforms.
Yeah,
That's not the issue. It's just I think Lucasfilm just doesn't know. I'm a problem because I fucking want those.
They try too, like they have like
play those.
Like, sorry, go ahead.
I'm a problem. I want to play those games on modern platforms.
I do too. And they got Kit Fisto now in it, an added character or something. I'm like, awesome, but still, like, I don't know. Like, I think they try to appeal because there's like a bunch of animated shorts on like Disney Plus with like Star Wars stuff, but you're not seeing the same level of like trying to reach kids that they did like in like even 2010-ish, like, or right before Force Awakens. Like, are those kids gonna have those movies if they grow up on? That sucks, and I hate to sound old because I only know like the prequels when that was coming out, but like that sucks. And then it's not gonna be memorable anymore because Star Wars at this point is just another movie. I think that's the thing. It's just another franchise. I mean, yes, I know there's a lot more to it than that, but like that's what the average person will see it as. Oh, it's one of those movie series that came out and kept being remade off of something old. Like,
well, I just think Disney and Lucasfilm is just out of touch with what the average person is into these days. Like, if they truly were in touch with young people, they would have a Star Wars animated series. I'm going by anime, by the way. I have an anime studio from Japan. It doesn't matter. You could have Madhouse or any of the famous like anime studios. do their own anime series, pay them to do a series, and have them do their own Star Wars anime.
I think that would be so cool.
No,
They had that Star Wars Visions thing. That was only like little 10-minute shorts, but an actual like show, like that would be so cool.
like a full-fledged anime. It's like, let them go nuts with it. I'm just saying that you could fucking do that. And does it have to be in one inclusive continuity? No, but it doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that's just one way they can get young people into Star Wars, but I just don't think Lucasfilm understands young people at all. I think they understood them back in when the prequels were coming out, which is why they had things like Clone Wars 2003. George Lucas, I feel like he did, at least, or someone that was working with him had to know what the kids were into at that time.
Yeah.
And I feel like Star Wars has become irrelevant because Star Wars has refused to adapt. It
hasn't evolved really. Yeah.
It refuses to basically try to get younger people into it. It's like Star Trek, by contrast, I don't want to sound like I'm demeaning Star Wars fans here. I'm not. Star Trek is an adult show.
Yeah.
When I mean by adult, I don't mean like sex and violence. No, I'm talking about in terms of the themes that it tackles.
It's actually a lot less violent, but like the kind of like ideas it tries to present are usually like at least somewhat philosophical or make you think about it like a little bit more than. And no offense to Star Wars, of course, but it's not like a show for, especially like when you get into past the first like series, but it does deal with more complex topics.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying that Star Wars, I just don't feel like it. Like if it's trying to appeal to, you can't just appeal to kids and adults. You have to and have your cake and eat it too. I feel like they're kind of ignoring. I'm sorry, not ignoring. They're trying to cater to everyone, but only the only people that really care about it are older people that are like they're my age or older.
Yeah. Well, even you're not caring anymore, so it's like.
Well, I'm not. It's like
exactly.
If I want to, it's like I have my Star Wars books. If I want anything new that's a space opera, I have Gundam. Whatever Gundam series I have not seen, I have Gundam. As my space opera. If I want something like that, or Star Trek, it's just Star Wars. I just feel like it is refusing to adapt to the times, and it doesn't help the fact that the sequel trilogy just completely. Its main like priority is nostalgia, is what ultimately doomed it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
you could tell that from Force Awakens. Like,
who's going to remember these shows that come out after they're done?
Yeah.
And with the
people
digital,
might remember the Baby Yoda toy or some shit, but they'll never remember who the Mandalorian was or what any of this actually had to do with the rest of the movies. Like, no one will.
And not to mention, we're in an era where physical media is disappearing. It's like these shows on Disney Plus can disappear at any time.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's been digital content that's been pulled on all platforms, including Disney Plus.
And as far as I know, all the exclusive Disney Plus shows you cannot get on DVD or anything like that, or Blu-ray. You can get, like, of course, the original movies and some stuff but even like Clone Wars, the seasons that they did for the end of Clone Wars, you can't get anywhere else. They're only on there. And they used to be on Netflix, and then they're not there anymore. So digital media is very, like, fickle. It can go away very fast. Like, if the rights are pulled for something, or if something just, like, goes wrong, or if it's, like, 20 years later, you just can't access it anymore. It might happen.
Yeah, it's like these shows could be removed any time. They could disappear in a blink of an eye.
I think it's happening in video games too. Like, now the consoles that they make, most of them aren't even going to include disc slots anymore. Like,
and I think
everything.
Sorry. Well, the disappearance of physical media, it's like this is not this is relevant. It's like all these how many of these shows that are currently on these streaming platforms, how many of them will be accessible 10 or 20 years from now?
Yeah.
Like that's hundreds of hours worth of entertainment. I'm going by Star. We're
I
going by
mean, there's always a solution, which is just fucking
piracy.
pirate it. Yeah.
I even understand, but even then, that's only so much space someone can have on their hard drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, that's what I might do if I want to watch Andor. I might not even bother going to Disney Plus. I might just I might just torrent it and just watch it that way. Because fuck that. It's not piracy is not theft, especially if they see ownership, if they see purchasing as an ownership.
If you're not like just taking the movie and trying to sell it, you're actually doing nothing wrong. And even if you are, who cares? But you're literally not. If you're watching a movie, like
I don't care. We don't owe these corporations anything. It's not stealing if it's from a corporation. They're not people. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Stealing for corporations is not theft.
just don't get caught.
Yeah, just don't get caught. Oh my god, Darth Sinovia is arguing for piracy. Damn right. You know the stupidest arguments against piracy? Oh, you wouldn't download a car.
Yes, I would if I could.
If I could, I would. Like this, do they honestly think kids like? It's kind of funny thinking about like stuff they used to do in anti-piracy ads and fucking DVDs back in the early 2000s. It's like, do they honestly think this is gonna make young people like myself who were young at the time, like, not want to pirate? It'll make us want to do it more because fuck you.
And that's the thing, though. Those even just said you can copy it, because back then it was like totally legal to just copy something on like a VHS and then like show it to other people. But now, if you're copying it from the internet and then showing it to someone, it's illegal, because you could be making money off of that. And if there's money to be made, they want all that money. So
Physical media is the superior format because it's yours. You own it. You don't have to fucking worry. Like the only thing the worst thing that could happen is if it breaks, it's your fault if you fuck up. But even then, there's so many different ways you can, like, it's whatever. It's still replaceable in a decent amount of numbers.
I think the only thing that digital really has going for it is just storage capacity and compactness. But even then, you can get like a quadrillion bit computer and store everything ever made on it. But how much of that are you actually gonna consume, or even like do from day to day and like experience? Like, yeah.
You'll own nothing and you'll like it. Isn't this funny how libertarians say they hate corporations, yet they support they simp for corporations?
I never heard of libertarians say they hate corporations, only that they hate the government stopping corporations from doing shit. Or big pharma, sorry, anything to do with medicine or vaccines. They also don't like that.
You know, one thing I really hate about people about libertarians in general is like they always say the government and treat the government like it's some sort of separate entity from anything else. We challenge is like who? We challenge libertarians like, okay, who owns the government then? Who controls it? they silence. Oh, that's not capitalism. That's cronyism.
Because it's funny, because they know that there's something wrong, but their head is in the wrong way. They're like, no, this is the reason why everything is like bad. It's like, no, you're an idiot.
There's a reason why the libertarian fascist the fascist pipeline is a thing.
Literally, because once someone finds out that libertarianism doesn't exist, and can't work, then it's like, well, I guess this is the next best thing.
Well, the thing. It's interesting about libertarians. When you push them hard enough, they actually are one of the first fascists. Not the first, but they will go hugely anti-Semitic when you push them hard enough.
I'm not surprised.
Because they're the most susceptible to that, because the anti-government. Not saying there's anything wrong with being anti-government, but they've ruined that position.
Yeah.
Because they don't see the problem with the system, they see the problem with the government, even though the government is the fucking problem. I mean, like, the system enables the government that you fucking hate, but
But you can't question capitalism, because that's the best thing that God ever created. You know.
like that stupid fucker that goes on Jason's comment section and doesn't say anything of substance at all. Like, any anti-communist in general, when you push them enough, they will go full-blown, anti-Semite.
No, there's definitely a link between that, and that goes all the way back to like 1910s era, like connecting, like you were saying earlier, like Judeo-Bolshevism, cultural Marxism kind of thing. That always comes up eventually.
Not all independent comics are right-wing wet dreams. Let's be honest, nobody gives a shit about young Ripa's fucking stupid fucking Ripa.
Oh god. I was scrolling recommended, and one of those videos by him got recommended, and I just wanted to wipe my entire history. I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay, I'm just gonna say this, and I've said this to multiple people I've talked to. When you've seen one right-wing fucking video from all these reactionaries, you've seen all of them. You don't need to watch any more videos. Hell, the comment section most of the time has more to say about their video than their video. And I don't recommend anyone going through that brain rot.
I sure as hell would not. I can't believe you have.
Oh, I've suffered through the abyss. Some of the worst fucking shit. Does anyone remember Rageaholic? Or Razor Fist? What he's known as now?
Why? What happened?
Let's see. He's a hardcore Trump supporter. He's a Nazi metalhead.
Okay. Oh god.
And he even looks like a Nazi if you look at the way his expression. He has a Japanese imperialist flag in one of his videos.
Whoa. Pretty edgy there. Whoa.
Oh, but he hates Ron DeSantis. That makes him yeah, well, Ron DeSantis is an idiot. You know what? Fuck it. I'd say let's dedicate the last part of the stream to Palestine. Fuck it. That'd be irresponsible if we didn't.
Still going on.
It's like, good God. It's so difficult to even watch. Like, it's not that I ignore what's going on in Palestine. I don't. It's just, it's so hard.
Once you've seen so much, like, just terrible, like, bombs blown up people's houses and people just confused because they don't know what the fuck is going on. And their whole life is just destroyed in an instant. Like, and I think
you have people still denying that it's a genocide, even though it clearly is.
I think this will be one of the evolutions of war in media, and how the more wars, like actual war footage, is seen throughout history, people are more conscious, not only conscious of what's going on, but taking a side that is for the people. Like, you first saw this with World War II, where they first were able to film stuff, and it was mostly just propaganda films. But then in like Vietnam era, they were putting like TV, what actually happened, war like battlefield footage on TV, and sometimes that was pretty like graphic, and people were shocked by that. 2003 invasion of Iraq, people saw even more of that on TV. But now with the internet and social media, we're seeing so much. And
Yeah, not to
just
mention
the one-sided like bombardment of it all, like just overkill.
like fucking you have people that are it's like I'm sorry, anyone that supports Israel knowing all this footage exists at this point is a monster. I don't care. No one's gonna fucking convince me otherwise
Person.
that you're not a monster and you're not a fucking Nazi. If you could see fucking video after video of IDF soldiers celebrating the deaths of fucking people, or seeing children getting blown to pieces, or fucking seeing parents crying as they're holding their children's body, or seeing a child crying because they saw everyone in their family die.
Yeah.
Like if you see all this footage, all this, hear all these horror stories, and you don't fucking feel anything, you don't have a fucking soul. I'm not religious. I'm just saying this. I'm just saying this because it's true. It's like, how could anyone like see this without feeling something?
Any kind of human reaction. Yeah.
Well, but we obviously supporters of Israel, we know they have reasons they support Israel. One, they're fucking racist and they're fascist, and because it serves their interests as capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
It just when Nazis are openly supporting Israel, like here's the thing that's the most insulting about fucking Israel in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what the fuck? I don't know who that person is. I'm just bringing this up so people know. But I agree. Justice. It's like then there was that child who was scared, who was stuck in a car, who was bleeding out, dying.
Oh.
So much fucking death. And it feels like nothing's happening. We're in February and nothing's fucking happening. It's like, yeah, Israel, we know Israel is a pariah state, and for the rest of its existence, it'll be hated by the working class of the world and the proletariat. They've lost the PR war. They've lost. They don't have the support they once did.
Yeah. Even of Western bourgeois countries, they won't have support in the future. Like,
yeah.
And then they'll truly be totally collapsing because they won't have the power that keeps them alive, basically, which is the U.S.
They'll just blame the Jews. That's what the fucking that's what the fascists will do when Israel collapses. They'll blame the Jews.
Yep. It'll just be another to blame, basically.
Yeah, they'll blame the Jews, or they'll blame whatever group they'll blame for the fall of Israel. No, isn't it interesting how capitalism always, every time there's something that goes wrong with the system, they always blame those who have no power.
Yeah.
Then again, in fascism, your enemy is strong and your enemy is weak. Yeah, it doesn't. It's inconsistent. It doesn't make any sense. Well, actually, it does make sense if you know anything about fascists and how they think. But that's just that's just their philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Palestinians owe Israelis nothing, and not to mention having some people using this opportunity. And I'm not going to mention names because I get sick just talking about this, using this as an opportunity to spread even more division.
What do you mean?
Like, make it like I'm just gonna say this: there is no being neutral on what's going on in Israel, and anyone that says that this isn't your problem, the same people that are bombing children in Gaza are the same people that are supporting and training the people to kill black men, women, and children in the United States.
Yep.
The same fucking people. The same people that fight against reparations for black people are the same kind of people that are fucking bulldozing Palestinian homes, murdering their
Well,
children, raping their
symptom
women.
of first worldism, though, isn't it? Like, oh, it's over there, so it doesn't affect me.
Well,
Even though
not,
those exact same tactics are being used or going to be used much worse on them in the future.
well, that's why I'm saying I listen to the new black media mostly because of information, but they're as reactionary as the old. I don't see them as serious.
Mm.
It's like you use Malcolm X to support.
Is there? Sorry, go ahead.
They talk about Malcolm X from time to time, but yet Malcolm X would have been against them for their apathy.
Are they like being like sympathetic to Palestine? Are they
They're not
standing in solidarity with them? No.
No.
Oh.
They encourage apathy.
Mm.
Basically, treating Palestinians is the same way as the white supremacists in the United States, and they're not even comparable. Oh, none of these groups care about us, so fuck them.
Yeah. And I hate to say it because I'm not part of the black community, obviously, and I'm not
either.
in the U.S. But like, it's just individualism. I think that if this problem doesn't affect me, then it's not.
Well,
that's everybody in first worldism, and especially
yeah, but the very fact that you
people
cannot connect the dots, what's going on in Gaza they're being trained by the same fucking people. Their tactics are being used by the same people, the same institutions. I'm not saying
we talked about this in the previous stream with Cop City. Yeah,
I'm not arguing against reparations here, but the black community will never get reparations by dividing groups against each other. What's going on in Palestine is connected.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's one of the reasons why they're so isolated. Why why people won't actually listen to them. Not to mention that I'm just going to say this: the narcissism in this community too. I'm going by the people of that who support people like that, because.
What do you mean by new black community? Let's just be clear. So
Well, they claim they claim like people around the world are jealous of black people, and people around the world are like, it's like, wait, what? This is not a dialectical analysis.
No, clearly.
And I just feel like, how are you helping people here by basically pitting them against other groups who have no issue with you? I'm not saying there isn't contradictions with some people who come from Palestine who come here and may not have some anti-blackness. Of course they're going to. It's part of the damn culture. I'm not defending it, but it's fucking true.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't.
I don't think that kind of niche racism is as prevalent as white on black racism in the United States. So it's like, is that really something that you should be not showing solidarity with Palestine for? Like, same with people who are like, oh, people in Palestine who are LGBT aren't treated very well. It's like, yeah, okay, like they're homophobic. Like,
well, more black people support Palestine than who don't. Again, there's a contradiction. There's a difference between. Again, there's two factions of Pan-Africanism. There's those who are on the capitalist side, and there's those who support actual revolution.
How could that seems so antithetical? Like capitalist new Africanism. Oh no.
Well, I wouldn't call them new Pan-Africanists. I'm just saying I compare the equivalent.
I know.
There's a contradiction.
Yeah, definitely.
But hey, don't get me wrong. I agree with the new black media on most of what they say. But when it comes to like domestic stuff, I mostly agree what they say. So I'm not going to throw away everything they say. They are pretty much correct when it comes to the white supremacists that run our government, the history of white supremacy. They are 100% right. But when it comes to like stuff revolving around the Middle East, they don't know anything on what they're talking about. anyway, I just had to voice my. No, that okay. That's the thing. I still listen to them because they are right. The new black media saw the failure of Ron DeSantis over a year before he fucking dropped out. They knew he would fail. They weren't wrong.
Hmm.
When it comes to domestic issues, they know their shit. Listen to them on domestic issues. They are right most of the time. When it comes to international stuff, no, I don't think so. Again, you never watch something that without having some skepticism over it, because they do all these institutions that they all have some sort of agenda.
Yeah.
Now, again, I got to say this one more time. I 100% I am 100% in support of reparations. Every group should get it that's been wronged by the imperialists around the world. Every group.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. Not a single group is exempt. Of course, are Palestinians going to get reparations? No, they won't. Not as long as capitalism exists.
Yeah, maybe in a distant future, but I don't know.
I feel like, though, Palestine is the reason why it's so important as well is I feel like the fall of Israel would actually be a huge blow to white supremacy. Not saying other forms of bigotry would not exist afterwards, because we still have China to contend with.
And
but
Europe
I'm saying that it would weaken white supremacy worldwide if Israel were to fall. Because Israel is like one of the last colonialist countries that exist.
Well, one of them.
I'm not saying it's the last one of them.
Directly colonialist, sure, yeah.
It's one of them. And the fall of Israel would be a new era. Though I wouldn't be too excited about this new era because we have China that we have to worry about.
Yeah, I don't know what they do to Africa. I mean, in the Middle East, they've been supporting Iran mostly, but Iran has their own things as well. But it's interesting, the whole Red Sea situation, if you followed that too. How they're letting certain ships pass. And
of course, I can't say this because I'll sound China-phobic, but I do think China is more dangerous than the United States potentially, because I'm talking about for its domestic population. I'm talking about, not
maybe in the future, but
well, the thing is, China in the future is potentially more dangerous than the United States because of the Chinese people support their government far more than the American people. Like, if you poll the average American, on which party they support, you don't see an overwhelming American supporting either Republicans or Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Chinese Communist Party has so much support in China. Well, we don't know how much their support there actually is because, again, polling is skewed. Because how many people do they actually talk to or interview?
Yeah, well, it's like that for all polling, but yeah.
But still, if you talk to your average person, I'm mostly talking about talking in America, most of them don't support either party.
Do you think that's changing though? Because aren't less people voting every year?
I think what people need to be ready for in North America, since this I'm just talking about where me and Maxwell Glover live. We need to prepare for the domestic fascism because it's coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest threat. You can see it every day.
Yeah,
I was out driving today, and there was a bunch of people who were protesting nothing, but they were protesting like gender affirming teaching in schools. So that means like, oh, if this like kid who's like over 15 wants to be referred to as a girl, yet they were born male, they're just accepting of that. Or teaching about anything about that in schools, they protest that because that's bad. And then they call them groomers and rapists, and they had a bunch of signs that said that. So, like, it's becoming more normalized every day.
Yeah, it is. And there's more. The police are more armed than they were. Like,
Hmm.
you know, you know, 5 years ago, there's even a law in California that's being proposed being passed to require armed police in schools.
Really?
That totally is not going to end well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like kids should be fucking going to school to fucking learn. They shouldn't have a fucking pig with a fucking gun.
You know that that'll be turned against students who aren't, like, behaving or something. Because eventually it won't be there to protect them. It'll be there to spy on them and make sure that nothing's going on.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
America is a fascist state, and all those. Oh my God, California, California is a fucking fascist state, just like every other state in this country.
Same with Canada. Yeah.
It pisses me off, like for people, conservatives, or what's it called, right? What's it called, fascists, who don't live in California, love to talk bad about California, but they don't fucking live here. There's so much social conservatism in California. People don't fucking understand what it's like, especially in Orange County, where I fucking live. Orange County, California, is one of the most socially conservative fucking places in the fucking country.
Really?
It's so fucking ugh.
Yeah,
Not to
my
mention-
town's probably the most like that in my province, but
When you see fucking, and not to mention the treatment of homeless people is getting worse.
yeah, same here.
Like, homeless people can't even go to a fucking bathroom without being treated as a criminal, or needed to use a restroom. You have to pay.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, that's a way to make someone reminded that they're less than human, is making them having to pay money they don't have just to be able to do something as simple as
a basic human function. You know, it's terrible.
Yeah, the way this country treats its most vulnerable people. It's like, oh yeah, but capitalism is working just fine, folks, isn't it? Yeah, we're having a rising homeless epidemic. Oh yeah, rent is becoming harder and harder for people to afford, but capitalism works, folks.
Trust me. Yeah.
Trust me, bro. Capitalism is the greatest ever. There was no inventors before capitalism. There was no.
I love that one. That's
There's nobody. No one does anything without a financial incentive. Markets did not exist before capitalism.
Another one, yeah.
They don't say that, but they act like. But that's libertarian logic. But those who actually know capitalism or are educated on it don't fucking say something that's stupid. But
like, even Adam Smith, like the quote unquote guy who quote unquote invented capital, even though he didn't invent anything, he just wrote a book about it. Like, even he knew that shit, guys. Like,
their favorite guy, Adam Smith, would hate these people.
He'd just be like, "You guys are all idiots." Like,
he hated landlords
because it's unproductive capital. Like, you're not investing it in anything or making a business, and you don't work to own it. So therefore, you're basically just a parasite in everyone's eyes.
Oh, but guys, you need to get a better job. If you don't like your job, you can leave it. Yeah, well, that's fine. What is someone with no college education? How are they going to look for another job? What are you going to do? What are you going to do in the months that where you're not working? How are you going to pay your bills?
Yeah.
I'm just going to, and not to mention another thing, you could see the signs of capitalism, like it's collapsed, though it's not going to happen in the future. Is if you, for those of for those of you who've been to whatever places, have you noticed how customer service in a lot of these fast food chains have gotten worse in the past 5 years? Why everything feels slower than it once did? Like, have you guys noticed that? Maxwell's been kicked off again. All right, I guess he'll come back on, whatever. If he doesn't, anyway, have you guys noticed that? How things have gotten worse in terms of customer service? Because I have. Like it used to be so fast, but now it's slow. And the reason for that, and I could say this as experience, is someone that once worked at Trader Joe's, especially, they fucking reduce the hours of the workers or just fucking reduce the workforce by cutting it by half. So fast food joints, they have less people, and 2 people are doing the work of 4 people, and it's more work is expected to be done, yet there's less people around to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And I can speak this from experience in my current job that I'm working on. I stayed like almost 3 hours more than I was scheduled to, because
Really?
it was a busy day. There was no people
Oh,
to take over my job. Well, I'm not going to complain because I need the hours, but still,
yeah.
because I'll work extra hours if it gives me if I get paid more. I don't care. Anyway, that because I don't get enough hours as it is, so I'm going to take whatever hours I can get. But anyway, at least I'm getting paid. But anyway, like there's like all over the country. There's people that are trying to pass the take away overtime.
Overtime pay, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh. At the old place where I used to work, it was like a meat cutting factory, and they'd have what they called mandatory overtime. So you're called in for 8 hours every day, but like kind of like your job, but I guess, but basically the people who'd worked there for like 5 years and over, they could take overtime off. But if you were new there, like me, you had to stay and do it. So sometimes it would be like up to 14 hours a day, and you'd only get paid like it wasn't time and a half because that was the average one. It was like time and a quarter because you were new. So they
That's
know.
bullshit.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be a union job too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just they want to cut the workforce to be as small as possible.
Yeah. But yet try to get so much production through, almost as much production through with limited workforce. It's like that doesn't work like that.
Like, because they cater to they look at the shareholders, how much they're making, but they don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
And it makes things very difficult. And that's why these fast food places, like a lot of them, like that's why the service is as bad as it is, because there's less people, because you have, like, let's say I'm using an example, 2 people doing the job of like 4 people. So you're doing double the amount of work with not as much help. And they take advantage of people also as well in these jobs who don't have like any way of getting more hours, or they need more hours, so they just take advantage of them. I'm aware of being exploited on my job, and I'm aware of this, but unlike my last job, Trader Joe's, I know the ins and outs of the workforce by now. I don't try to. I'm friendly with my coworkers because it's something I should be, because it's the thing that's required. But I don't go beyond that. I don't get too familiar with my work with the workers, because I want to avoid what happened on my current job that I had on my last job.
Yeah. I'm lucky enough for just like being a janitor that like most times it's just me, because like all the places are closed I go to, so it's like, oh, it's just me and I can just work and go home, but don't have to talk to anyone about anything unless it's my boss calling me. But
you know what the most ridiculous thing is? A libertarian coworker I used to talk to. Yeah, it's the same guy. He said that like a living, like not a minimum wage is bad for workers.
in what way? Like it's not enough.
He couldn't elaborate. I told him, I'd say without minimum wage, they would pay us as little as possible as they can. They
Oh,
would
I
pay
thought
us nothing.
I thought you meant the other thing. I thought you meant that minimum wage isn't enough of a livable wage for people to survive off of. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty true. And then you said, oh, they shouldn't even be getting minimum wage. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
No, he said minimum wage hurts workers. Like without minimum wage,
Yeah,
that's
that's so sad.
I said without minimum wage, work like our boss would pay us as little as possible and would pay us almost nothing.
Yeah. How stupid do you have to be to think that? That's like
There's
ultimate libertarianism, like just
Yes.
brain rot right there. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, by the way, I challenge his anti-government views. Like if you were truly anti-government, you would not support the Supreme Court.
You support nothing that America even stands for. Yeah.
Well, because what more government intrusion is there than the Supreme Court?
Yeah, which makes all the rulings for laws, literally. Yeah.
Yes, and it's just so ridiculous. And like, it's a lot. I don't even know why I talked to the guy. I guess because he was the only person that was willing to talk to politics with me.
Oh man.
I cut him off as soon as he revealed to be a transphobe.
Oh. It's not surprising once you hear that much and you find that out. Yeah.
Well, when I told him that Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro had blood on their hands because at the time, the shooting at Chicago, I forgot, was fresh in my mind. I was angry about it.
Yeah.
Because I said in a just world, these people would be in prison because they have blood on their hands.
Yeah.
And then I told them I even told them when people hear rhetoric of certain groups being groomers, what the hell do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
Then
they might not be the ones who go out and do it, but they're literally like drumming the war bells, like.
But then instead of answering my question, he just says, "But aren't they groomers?"
Oh god.
And I was like, "We're done." I didn't allow the conversation to continue. I was like, "This is the same rhetoric I hear from Nazis. I'm done."
Well, maybe he's like just genuinely an idiot, and he just believes anything he hears.
Well,
there's people like that too.
It doesn't matter.
Then there's people who are like insidious about it.
Anyone that believes that to me is not someone I want to talk to.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
I'll stop you there. Just
okay.
Yeah.
There's reactionaries everywhere, but there's only a certain thing I can tolerate: anti-Semitism and transphobia. Like when you're that far down the rabbit hole that you actually believe that, then you're not someone I want to talk to.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to anyone racist or homophobic or anything transphobic at all. But yeah.
Yes, he is. The guy is a fucking creep. Like talking about impregnating 16-year-old girls. Like what the fuck? He's a fucking pedophile.
Yeah, that's so funny that like as much as they talk about gay people being pedophiles, they're always like nonchalant about like older men and like really young women. It's like that's fucked up. Just hypocrisy of conservatives.
Yeah, it's like, oh yes, we're against groomers, yet supports literal groomers.
Exactly.
The only thing I know that Adam Schiff really is a few quotes of his, and he wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Wealth of Nations in the 1700s. It was like trying to be an explanation of capitalism at that time and how it worked. People think that it was like the grand capitalist manifesto, but it's really not. It's just trying to explain it. But yeah. Yeah, poor little man. I don't feel bad for him though. That's pretty hilarious.
That's hilarious.
And he's oblivious about it too. Like he doesn't see it as a problem.
Wait, is that a G? Admit he can't? Or is that a joke that people made? Oh shit. Yeah. Damn, this is three. Looks
Sorry,
like the
my thing
CIA doesn't want us to do the stream
Yeah.
together.
No, it's just my shitty internet downstairs.
Fucking. Wow.
Sorry about that.
Fuck. I said we should end the stream, and it's fucking. We're like 3 hours in.
3 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah. So.
Probably should wrap it up.
Yeah. We okay. What the fuck do we even say? Like, okay, well, let's see. I'm thinking, fuck groomers, and I'm talking about the right wing groomers.
The real ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
The real ones.
And to quote my favorite character from Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, every accusation is a confession.
Yes.
No, it's true. It is really true. Every accusation from these people is a confession.
Mm-hmm.
Like every
A
time you
reflection
hear
of what. Yeah.
all these transphobes, like when you and these homophobes, the more overtly transphobic and homophobic they are, the more you find out, wait, these people are pedophiles.
They're
caught with fucking child porn on their fucking computer.
They attacked someone else's perceived like deviancy because they have like real like criminal deviancy that they don't want to draw attention to. Maybe, I don't know. Like,
well, we can all agree that Vosh is a fucking pedo.
Oh god, it's so funny how like the whole internet knows him now. Not even for his shitty politics, but just for him being a little weirdo.
He's a fucking pedophile.
I just find that so hilarious. Like,
and he was defending it too. It's like, oh, it's a goblet. It's like, what the fuck? You're making it worse.
Oh, it's so sick.
Don't don't ask like don't ask Vosh about the age of consent. You may not like what you find.
You may not like what you find. Oh boy.
Yes, it's like, what the fuck? Oh, and let's not forget that people like not just Vosh is a pedophile, but so is freaking the Quartering who defended Lolly.
Oh.
Yeah, fuck her. Oh god.
Ugh. Yeah, she sucks as well.
Jesus, so much right-wing trash, and they're all fucking pedos. It's no coincidence.
Yeah. Or they like to get spanked and pay women to do it. Like a certain someone.
Wait, what were you saying?
I said, or they like to get spanked and pay women to do it.
Yes. So, wow, we fucking... Well, I had to fit Vosh in here. We were fucking ranting about... Talking about pedos and... Fucking...
Talking about trashy people.
Yeah. You know what? This isn't a hot take, but we should round up every single pedophile and just shoot them.
I think most people would agree with you on that sentiment.
Yeah, well, unless you're a pedophile.
Except, yeah. Or you're like covering for someone who is.
They should be all round up and shot. The world would be better off without them. But then again, wouldn't we basically have to fucking have a mass grave, or do we have to mass cremation though?
I think all our governments would be destroyed if we did that.
Like how many? Again, wouldn't that mean most of our government in Hollywood are full of fucking pedos?
Or just like sexual abuse of people in general. Yeah.
Yes. It's like, how many of our fucking politicians are pedophiles?
And not to get into that conspiracy shit, because like there's a whole bunch of like right-wing conspiracies about it, but there are actually a lot. And it's not always people who they say it is, but
Alex Jones himself turned out to be a pedophile, and he's fucking... It's like, what the fuck? And I wonder how long it will be before it's confirmed that Spanky is a pedophile.
Oh God, not long at this rate.
You know, Caleb Moffin's one person I cannot take seriously. I really can't. Like, I watched that fucking video of his when he's talking about socialism has grown beyond the left. It's like, what is this?
Castro's Christian elements. Quote. Oh God. Bring Jesus back to socialism, guys. We need order in this chaotic world. Like a really shitty enemy villain. Oh God.
Or what about Pope Francis and fucking and communism? I was like, what the fuck? Like in this conference, it was just it looks like he just acts like a cult leader.
It's like in some hotel lobby or something, like a hotel conference room. It's not at like a speaker hall in like a university or like a classroom. It's like rented out somewhere. And he's like, okay, so we're going to be talking about why communism needs to be more Christian and less leftist. Like, get the fuck out of here.
And then he fucking, and of course he does a anti-Semitic dog whistle of the international
bankers. Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? Oh God! I would not be shocked if he goes out for support for Trump.
Hasn't he already almost like said things that would lead you to believe that? But
I don't know.
I think he has. But anyways, enough about fucking Spanky.
Well, I got to do a jab at him because whatever.
We always have to.
Yeah, because he's Spanky. That's the only thing he's gonna be known as is his fucking fetish. He's a joke. Yeah, well, the stream we talked about everything from Star Wars to Power Rangers to Palestine to like talking about some random shit. We even ended this talking about the fucking that every pedophile should be shot. So yeah.
A wide array of discussions. Well, thank you for having me on. Solidarity to Palestine.
Solidarity to Palestine.
Red salute. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you for everyone for watching. From river to sea, Palestine will be free.